Hey there, welcome to True Nightmares. Tonight, you're getting calm, creepy, true stories to keep you company while you fall asleep. If you enjoy this kind of dark, sleepy atmosphere, please like the video and subscribe so you always have something eerie to drift off to. When I think back on my childhood, there's one thing that has always stood out to me, something that still feels as real now as it did back then. I was haunted, not by a place or a person, but by my dreams. For a long time, what happened inside them almost slipped into reality. Even now, I can't tell if it ever really stopped. Maybe it just waits for me to close my eyes long enough to see it again. I was 5 years old when it started. My parents were divorced, and I spent 1 week with my dad, the next with my mom. It wasn't a bad arrangement. It just meant I had 2 bedrooms that never felt truly mine. My dad was a quiet man who loved crime shows, and my stepmom tried her best to keep me entertained. That particular week, I was at my dad's house, curled up on the couch beside him, watching a show that was way too grown up for a kid my age, Criminal Minds. That detail is important. It planted a seed. The episode that night was about a killer who left behind strange symbols and staged his victims like artwork. It wasn't the violence that scared me. It was the idea that evil could walk around looking perfectly ordinary. My dad didn't realize I was actually watching, not half asleep the way he thought I was. When he finally noticed how quiet I'd become, he sent me off to bed. My room there was small, a bed, a dresser, a window that faced the streetlight outside. The thin curtain never quite blocked the glow. Usually, that bit of light made me feel safe, but that night it felt too bright, like it was showing someone outside exactly where I was. I'd always had trouble sleeping, something my grandpa used to joke ran in the family. "We're all night owls," he'd say. But that night, my restlessness had teeth. After tossing around for what felt like forever, I got out of bed and started playing quietly with my dinosaur toys. The plastic figures always calmed me, but not that night. Somewhere in the middle of that silence, I suddenly felt it a prickle along my neck, like someone was watching me. Slowly, I turned toward the door. Nothing. Just shadows stretching across the room from the light outside. Still, I couldn't shake it. The feeling pulsed stronger, pulling at my chest like invisible fingers. I abandoned my toys and ran out of the room, crying, straight into my dad's arms. He was half asleep and confused, but he comforted me as best he could, tucked me back into bed, told me everything was fine. "Go to sleep, bud," he said softly, closing my door behind him. That was the night I dreamed of it for the first time. The memory of that dream comes and goes, but certain details never changed. It was dark, moonless dark. There was my house, but not quite right, smaller somehow, the walls breathing like lungs. In the yard, a shadow moved thin, graceful, gliding more than walking. It didn't make sound, but it moved. Its shape was wrong, tall, bird-like with a long beak like an old plague doctor mask and a soft, feathery mane around its head, and its eyes red, glowing from deep inside the black. I woke up gasping, sweaty, heart pounding, but when I looked around, the room was empty. I convinced myself it was just a bad dream, until the next night, then the one after that, and the one after that. The same figure kept coming back, creeping closer each time. For 5 years, that thing haunted me in my sleep. Most of the dreams have faded, smudged at the edges like charcoal drawings left in the rain, but a few of them burned themselves into my memory forever. In the first, it moved along the walls of my house. I could see it clearly, shoulders hunched, its claws scraping across the banister as it crawled up the stairs. My dad and stepmom sat motionless on the couch, eyes blank like they couldn't see it at all, while I hid behind the frame of the kitchen door, too afraid to make a sound. The shadow floated from room to room, like smoke drifting through air, never touching the floor completely. In the second dream, it came closer. I woke to find it standing directly over me, its crimson eye wide and unblinking, staring into mine. It reached for my blanket, curling skeletal fingers into the fabric, and dragged it away in one smooth motion. I remember every sound of my beating heart, every breath that shook like a sob I couldn't let out. The shadow leaned so close I could almost feel the cold radiating from it. In the third dream, everything spread beyond the house. That's when I called it the Shadow Man. He wasn't just haunting me anymore, he was walking my street. Wherever he went, People died. Flames followed him. The air broke like glass. Each night within the dream felt like a new day, and each day I lost someone I loved. On the first day, it was my mom. I saw her hanging from an upside-down cross, fire swirling around her, her face peaceful in a way that made no sense. The second dream day, my stepfather was nailed to the wall of our house, blind eyes staring into nothing. The last dream in that sequence is still too painful to describe fully. It was about my little sister. That's all I can say. Every time I woke up crying, my dad would blame it on the TV show or my imagination. No more scary stuff before bed, he'd say. But even on nights I didn't watch anything, the dreams kept coming. By the fourth dream, the Shadow Man wasn't just visiting anymore, he was following me. Everywhere I went in the dream, I could feel his presence. When I ran, he ran. When I turned around, there was nothing but my own shadow. Yet I knew it wasn't really mine anymore. The sky in those dreams was always dark gray, the horizon filled with storms that followed wherever I went. Cities burned, streets flooded, faces vanished. It was like the whole world was collapsing under something I had brought with me. The fifth dream is the one that broke me. Like all the others, it started normal. I was in a bathroom, not mine, not any I recognized. The walls were white tile, the mirror fogged from a shower I don't remember taking. The thrum of dripping water echoed in my ears. I stood by the sink, doing something ordinary, maybe brushing my teeth. Then, 3 hard knocks rattled the door. "I'm in here," I called. Another knock, louder. "Someone's in here," I shouted again, irritation climbing up into fear. The sound stopped. Then, all at once, the door slammed open, breaking off its hinges. A wave of blackness swept in an ocean of living shadow, spilling like smoke from the gap. It swallowed the floor, the walls, the ceiling. The light bulb flickered once and died. In the pitch-black void that followed, my body felt like it was being pulled apart, every nerve turning cold. Then, nothing. That was the last dream. Or at least, the last one that ended like that. After that night, I didn't see the Shadow Man in my dreams again, but his absence didn't feel like peace. It felt like he'd stepped out of the dream and into something else, something closer. Now that I'm older, I've tried to rationalize it. Maybe the show Criminal Minds planted some sinister image in my mind, and it bled into my subconscious. Maybe stress and family changes made me prone to night terrors. For a while, I convinced myself that's all it was. But then, things in waking life started to feel wrong. It started small. Whenever people around me talked about demons, spirits, or anything supernatural, I'd feel a strange chill ripple down my spine. The air around me would change texture, heavy and electric, as if something unseen was listening in. I noticed shadows move at the edges of my vision, slipping away when I turned to look. It didn't matter where I was, school, work, even church. They followed quietly along the walls, flickering with the shape of that same awful silhouette from my dreams. At night, when I turn off the lights, the old sensation returns, the one I had the first night it all began. That creeping awareness that I'm not alone. Sometimes, just as I'm about to drift off, I hear the faintest scratching, like claws tracing the wall behind my headboard. It stops the moment I open my eyes. My dog avoids my room now. He used to sleep beside the bed, but lately, he whines and scratches at the hallway floor whenever I close the door. He won't come in, no matter how much I call for him. He just stares, ears flat, eyes fixed on the dark corner across from my closet door. I've told myself I'm imagining it, but deep down, I know better. The Shadow Man might not appear in my dreams anymore, but I think he's found another way to stay close. The air around me hums with it, his presence. The same kind of silence that pressed down on me when I was 5 now follows me wherever I go. Some nights, the street lights outside my window flicker, one after another, until I'm staring into total darkness. That's when I feel it most, the cold weight of being watched, as if 2 red eyes are staring out at me from within my own shadow. Over the years, I've read about things like shadow people and sleep paralysis, trying to find something that fits my story neatly into science. It's comforting to believe there's an answer, but every time someone mentions spirits or demons, that same icy tremor slides through me, the same one that once preceded the dreams. I don't talk about this much. People don't like hearing about what can't be explained, but sometimes I wonder if the Shadow Man has been tied to me all along. Maybe he needed me to remember him. Maybe he never needed to leave at all. Even now, when I walk through a dimly lit room, the shadows stretch longer than they should, almost reaching for me. And I can't shake the thought that one day I'll look down and realize the shadow at my feet is no longer mine. For most of my life, I've had experiences that could only be described as paranormal things that defy reason, logic, or science. They've followed me like a shadow I couldn't escape, shifting shapes but never disappearing completely. For a long time, every encounter left me shaken. Whispers in the corners of silent rooms, cold hands of air brushing against my skin, and that unshakable feeling that something was always just behind me. But my most recent experience was different. For once, I wasn't terrified. For once, whatever had crossed over from the unseen world didn't want to harm me. It wanted to play. It wanted company. And it came to me in the form of someone I once loved deeply, my dog, Tuna. I don't know how to explain what Tuna was to me when he was alive. He wasn't just a pet. He was family. One of those rare souls who seem to understand things beyond words. He had this warm, steady gaze that could calm any storm. When he passed away, a part of me went with him. I cried for days. Even long after we buried him under the oak tree in our backyard, I'd still turn corners expecting to see him trotting alongside me, his tail wagging. Losing him left a silence that felt alive and cruel. So, when I first started seeing him again, well, something like him, I didn't know what to feel. It happened late one night when I woke up without warning. My room bathed in pale moonlight. For a moment, I thought I was half dreaming. But then, the mattress dipped at the foot of my bed, the same way it had so many nights when Tuna used to climb up to curl beside me. I sat up fast, my heart hammering, and there he was. Not made of fur and flesh, but light. His shape shimmered faintly, translucent, like static glowing faintly in the air. He looked just like Tuna. For a long time, I couldn't move. The only sound was the faint ticking of my clock. Then, as if sensing my fear, the ghostly outline approached me. His eyes were bright, almost human in their sadness, and I swear I could smell the faint scent of his fur, the same familiar warmth that had comforted me my entire childhood. "Tuna?" I whispered. His tail lifted, wagging slowly, and the room filled with a faint electric hum. That moment was when I stopped feeling afraid. Whatever this was, I didn't sense malice. It wasn't like the other things that had haunted me, those cold presences that crept into my dreams, or whispered my name when the lights went out. This was something gentler, something that knew me. From that night on, Tuna started visiting me regularly, always at the same time, between 4 a.m. and 4:50 a.m. Not a minute before or after. It was strange, almost ritualistic. I've never managed to see him outside that window, not at 3 to 59, not at 5:1. As if there's some invisible rule he's bound by. Maybe that hour means something on his side of things, or maybe it's something my mind has unconsciously set. I know how this sounds, a ghost dog who comes like clockwork for playtime, but it's the truth. Every night, I feel my blanket shift as his spectral form climbs up onto my bed. Sometimes, he brings a ghostly toy, something resembling the squeaky bone he used to carry everywhere. When I reach down to pet him, my hand passes through something cold but comforting, like chilled fog that still manages to hold shape. The strangest part? I can understand him. We talk not through speech exactly, but an understanding that moves straight from thought to thought. Sometimes he tells me little things, nothing meaningful, like how fast the night might feel to him, or how he still remembers the sound of rain hitting the old tin roof above our porch. But one night, our conversation turned darker. He told me he didn't like dying. It's one of the clearest things I've ever heard him say. He hated the way it happened, how sudden and lonely it was, how scared he felt when his body gave out. He said he still roams our house, hoping my parents would somehow see him, that he doesn't want to be forgotten. Hearing that broke something inside me. I cried for him all over again. Even in death, he was still loyal, still trying to come home. For months, it was just between us, like a secret I wasn't ready to share. But one night, something strange happened, something that showed I wasn't imagining it after all. I remember it vividly. It was a quiet night. the air heavy with the smell of coming rain. I was sitting up in bed, with Tuna's faint, glowing shape sprawled beside me. We were locked in our usual rhythm. He'd nudge my foot playfully, and I'd laugh. Sometimes he'd vanish and reappear like a flicker of candlelight. I thought I was alone until I heard the faint creak of my bedroom door. It was my sister. She often stayed up late, scrolling through her phone, and must have heard me murmuring. Curiosity had gotten the better of her. When she stepped into the room, her expression was that of someone caught between disbelief and awe. She saw him too. For the longest moment, she didn't say anything. Her eyes darted from me to Tuna, whose translucent form shimmered faintly in the dim light. I could see the reflection of that glow in her tears as they welled up. "That's not possible," she whispered, her voice cracking. But it was. I told her it was okay, that Tuna always came to play around this time. My sister didn't move at first, frozen in that space between fear and wonder. When she finally gathered herself enough to walk closer, Tuna turned his head toward her and wagged his tail the same way he always used to when we came home from school. She gasped softly, taking one hesitant step forward. For that brief instant, everything in the house felt suspended. The ticking clock, the rain outside, even our breath. It was like the world had paused just to make room for that reunion between the living and the dead. Since that night, she's never denied it. We don't talk about it much. It's almost like there's an unspoken rule not to push the boundaries of what happened. Our family has seen and felt things most people can't imagine. Spirits, dark presences, shadows that move on their own. We've lived through them all. The world we inhabit sometimes feels paper thin, the line between reality and the supernatural blurred at the edges. But Tuna's presence felt different, a reprieve. It's strange how something so haunting can also be gentle. He's become a source of calm amidst the chaos, a reminder that not everything beyond understanding has to be feared. When I think about the darker things I've seen, the nights I've felt, chilled to the bone, by unseen eyes watching me, his visits feel like protection. Maybe he's my guardian now. Or maybe he just doesn't want to let go. There are still questions, though. Why can my sister and I see him, but not my parents? They carry on as if nothing's happened, unaware of the spirit that wanders their home. Sometimes, when Tuna's in the room, my father will walk by without noticing, completely unfazed, as if there's a wall between worlds separating them. My mother says I've always had a vivid imagination when I mention sensing him, her laugh light and dismissive. I stopped bringing it up, but I've thought about it a lot since then. Maybe people lose the ability to see what they don't want to acknowledge. Maybe the older you get, the thicker that veil becomes between the physical and the spiritual. Or maybe it's something specific to me and my sister, something in our very blood that draws these things to us like moths to flame. Whatever it is, I can't deny that Tuna's presence feels real. His visits follow a rhythm too precise to be coincidence. 4 to 4:50 a.m., never earlier, never later. The house is always silent during that window, almost reverent. The air feels charged, like everything pauses in anticipation. It's strange and comforting all at once, like being part of some nightly ritual I never asked for. Sometimes, when the time approaches, I'll wait for him. I'll leave the door slightly cracked so he can find his way in. Usually, I don't even have to look. I can feel the temperature shift first, the room growing faintly cooler, the air electric. Then there's the soft sound of claws clicking on the floor, though they make no marks, and I know he's here. We sit in silence sometimes, no words needed. He'll rest his head against my lap, eyes closed, and even though he's not really here, it feels right. It feels like closure I never got. And maybe that's what this is, his way of giving me the goodbye we never had. I don't pretend to understand it. Maybe Tuna is truly a spirit visiting from whatever world lies beyond ours, or maybe he's just a piece of my grief made manifest. But every time he appears, the fear that used to claw at me melts away. For that hour, nothing else matters. The world is full of strange, unexplainable things, most of them terrifying, some incomprehensible. But Tuna reminds me there can also be tenderness in the unknown. That comfort doesn't always have to come from the living. When morning comes, his light always fades, his shape dissolving into the gray of dawn. I whisper goodbye each time, hoping he can hear me, hoping he knows that I'm grateful not just for his visits, but for the reminder that love, once formed, never truly dies. Even though my parents may never believe, And even though most would laugh at the thought of a ghost dog visiting his old family, I don't care. I know what I've seen. I know what I feel. Tuna's gone, but he's also not. Somewhere between life and the afterlife, between memory and reality, he still finds his way back home, and each night between 4 and 4:50 a.m., I wait for his faint wagging tail to break the silence again. I worked a hybrid job, splitting my time between the office and home. It was your standard 9 to 5 routine. On the days we had to be in person, our small team of 5 handled research and gathered findings in this massive lab space. The room was huge compared to our group, so we each spread out into our own corners. None of us were big talkers, but we got along great and worked well together. It felt like we had the place mostly to ourselves most of the time. One day, during an in-person shift, we had a touch-base meeting scheduled with the head of our department. It was set as the last thing on our agenda for the day. Our team manager, Jack, was in a good mood because we'd made solid progress. He suggested we grab coffee across the street before heading in. It sounded perfect, especially since it was winter and the evenings got dark early. We picked up our drinks and stood outside for a bit, enjoying the fresh air. Our lab was right near the main entrance, so we didn't worry about rushing through the long hallways. We made it back about 10 minutes before the meeting was supposed to start. I was chatting with 2 of my teammates, Ryan and Brandon, so we ended up trailing a little behind Jack and our other teammate, Ashley. As we walked through the lab area, something caught our eyes. There was a guy ahead of us, walking away. He was dressed in casual clothes, nothing like the business casual we all wore. His hair looked scruffy, and he had a sturdy, manly build. We couldn't see his face, but he just didn't fit the professional vibe of the building. It stood out because everyone there always looked put together, clean-shaven or neatly groomed. We mentioned it to Jack and Ashley as we caught up. They hadn't really noticed, but they figured he must have come from one of the nearby labs. "Maybe he's a new handyman," Ashley said casually. We all nodded along, though I had my doubts. Usually, the handymen and janitors wore uniforms, even in winter when sweaters made sense. It wasn't a big deal at the time, so we brushed it off and settled into the meeting room. A couple of minutes later, our department head, Janice, arrived. She had that confident, no-nonsense walk like a woman always on a mission. We were all getting comfortable, setting down our coffee cups, when she made a snarky remark about how relaxed our team looked. Jack jumped right into business and asked her, "Do we have a new lab technician around?" Janice glanced up, not missing a beat. "How should I know? They're hired through HQ's HR, so I'm not in the loop on everyone. I haven't heard about any new hires, though." "Why do you ask?" Jack explained, "We just saw someone walking out of a lab, heading toward the main hall. Thought maybe you knew him." She shrugged it off. "Nope, didn't see him. But that lab next door was talking about a facelift renovation. Wouldn't surprise me if they brought in outside help." Brandon and I had the workstations closest to the door, his was right next to it. While everyone else was either helping Janice get set up or distracted with their notes, the door suddenly swung open. And there he was, the same guy we'd seen earlier. Brandon and I froze the second we got a look at his face. He was an unhealthy shade of pale, like he'd been drained of color. He looked exhausted, beaten down, and his eyes, they were different colors. One was a golden hazel, the other this eerie, grayish white. Part of me tried to rationalize it. Maybe he had some eye condition, or an old injury from working as an electrician or something. People have all kinds of medical things, right? He just poked his head in, not fully entering. "Hey, is everything okay in here? I'm working in this wing. Let me know if you notice any electrical issues." Janice barely looked up from what she was doing. "We're all good here, thanks." He glanced right at me, then over to Brandon, with this little side smirk that sent a chill down my spine. Then he pulled back and closed the door. Brandon and I exchanged tense looks. I glanced at Ashley, who was touching up her makeup in a compact mirror. She caught my eye and gave me a weird look, like something was wrong with me. I mumbled an excuse about needing the bathroom and slipped out before the meeting kicked off. The restroom was right across the hall, one of those big ones with 8 stalls. I did my business quickly, but as I stepped out to wash my hands, I saw him again. He was holding some kind of tool, heading straight toward our lab door. My heart raced. I darted back into the restroom and locked myself in a stall. Another woman was in there too. She must have heard me fumbling and asked if I was okay. I just whispered, "Shh," barely breathing. The main door swung open. No footsteps, no shadow moving under the stall doors, no sounds of anyone shifting around. It was dead silent. Then the other woman slowly exited her stall. I heard the faucet turn on, then off. She gasped sharp and quiet before everything went still again. Minutes dragged on. Finally, I heard normal hallway noise. People walking, chatting, heading out for the day. The lights in the other wing down the hall started flickering off one by one. I cracked the stall door, peeked out, and stepped into the hall. Everything looked normal now. Cautiously, I hurried back to the office. Brandon looked up right away. "You okay?" "I'm not sure," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Did that guy come back in here at all?" He shook his head. "No. Why?" "I saw him heading to our door with a tool." "You're sure?" Brandon eyed me closely, picking up on my nerves. "Yeah, I'm sure." "What happened?" "I don't know. Just forget it." The meeting went ahead as planned and wrapped up without any more drama. Janice bolted right after, like always. As we packed up our things, Brandon and I were still on edge. Jack and Ashley kept checking in, asking if we were all right. We played it off, saying the guy just looked creepy. Jack told us to shake it off and not overthink it. We headed out together. Jack was holding the door to the parking lot open, walking backward while glancing over his shoulder. Suddenly, he shouted, "Hey, sorry, is everything okay? That room's fine, we were just in there." We all spun around. It was him again, standing in our open lab doorway. He gave this creepy smile and turned away. We usually left the lab unlocked because the cleaners on our wing handled locking up at night. Jack jogged back quick to secure it. As he caught up to us, we saw the guy start running after him like full sprint. Jack panicked and ran toward us. We all bolted out the parking lot door in a group. The man just laughed this hollow, echoing laugh as we piled into our cars. We drove home separately, but texted the group chat to make sure everyone got back safe. No one followed us. No weird calls. Just that uneasy feeling hanging in the air. The next day, we were all back in the lab, a little jumpy, but trying to focus. I had to drop off some documents in another lab down the hall. On my way, I ran into Penny, one of the admin staff. She's super perky and energetic, always chatting. She was delivering work mail to our lab and filling me in on some memo updates. Halfway through her spiel, I cut in. "Hey, sorry, quick question. Who's the new hire fixing up that lab next door?" She blinked. "There isn't one. It's a contracted company, and they wrap up by 3 p.m. usually. Why?" "Are you sure? Yesterday after 4, some guy checked on our electrics. Super creepy vibe." Penny frowned. "Positive. I helped Harry lock up that wing. No one should have been there. Let me dig around and get back to you if I hear anything." "Please do," I said, and we went our separate ways. At lunch, Jack and I swung by the office to follow up. Penny just shrugged. "Nothing. No one was there. You sure you saw someone?" Jack was firm, very sure. We tracked down Janice next, asking if she remembered talking to the guy or if he rang any bells. She looked puzzled. "Don't recall that at all." When we looped back and shared it with the full team, we all just sat there, stunned. No records, no confirmation, no proof. It was like it never happened, except we all remembered it clear as day. We finished the project eventually and moved on with our lives, but that encounter stuck with me. Sometimes, late at night or walking empty halls, I still picture that pale face, those mismatched eyes, and that smirk. Who or what was he? And why did he keep coming back to our lab? Looking back, the whole thing felt off from the start. The way he appeared right after we returned from coffee, blending into the shadows of the huge lab like he belonged there. His casual clothes stood out even more in hindsight, clashing with the crisp suits and blazers everyone else wore. Ryan, Brandon, and I had exchanged those quick glances when we first spotted him walking away, his broad shoulders hunched slightly, like he was carrying some invisible weight. We joked about it lightly with Jack and Ashley, but deep down, it nagged at me. Handymen in uniforms, contractors with badges, that's how it worked in our building. This guy? Nothing. No ID, no tools visible at first glance. Then, the meeting room moment replayed in my mind 100 times. Janice's casual dismissal made sense at the time, but her shrug hid how little she actually knew. Jack's question hung in the air, polite but probing, and us, settling in with our steaming coffees, the winter chill still clinging to our coats. Brandon and I at those front desks, closest to the action, the door creaking open slowly, his head appearing like a ghost in the frame. That pallor, not just pale, but sickly, like he'd been underground too long. The eyes were the worst, one warm gold, catching the light almost playfully, the other dead gray, foggy and lifeless. Heterochromia, sure, but combined with everything else? It felt wrong. His voice had been casual, almost friendly. "Hey, everything okay? Working in this wing." But that smirk when he locked eyes with us, it lingered, like he knew something we didn't. Brandon's tension mirrored mine perfectly. We didn't need words. Ashley's confusion from her mirror touch-up spot only made it worse. She hadn't seen the full picture. My bathroom dash was pure instinct. Heart pounding, I slammed into that stall, the metal lock clicking like a lifeline. The silence after the door opened was deafening. No footsteps echoing on tile, no shadow play under the gaps, just that woman's gasp after the faucet, then nothing. I waited what felt like forever, ears straining for any hint of movement. Hallway bustle finally kicked in, colleagues shuffling home, lights dimming. Relief washed over me, but shaky. Back in the office, Brandon's concern was genuine. His why carried real worry. I downplayed it, but the seed of doubt was planted. The meeting dragged on professionally, notes taken, progress reviewed, but my mind wandered to that tool in his hand outside the bathroom. What kind? Wrench? Something electrical? The sprint after Jack at the end? Pure chaos. His laugh cut through the cold air, manic and distant as we fled to our cars. Text check-ins that night were our little ritual, confirming no tales, no issues. Penny's perkiness the next day clashed hard with the memo chit-chat. Her "no one was there" hit like ice water. Harry's lockup confirmation sealed it, no stragglers. Janice's memory lapse was the kicker. We pieced it together in stunned silence. 5 witnesses, 0 evidence. The lab felt tainted after that. Corners seemed darker, doors more prone to swinging. We powered through the project, deadlines met, but whispers of "that guy" surfaced now and then. Years later, I still replay it. Was he a spirit tied to the building, a warning, or something slipping through cracks we couldn't see? The hybrid life went back to normal, but those empty halls, they whisper now. And sometimes, I swear I catch a smirk in the reflection of a darkened window. I live in a quiet, remote part of the UK, but to keep everyone's privacy safe, I won't share the exact spot. This story is about my friend Zara, a British Pakistani influencer who's built a nice following online, sharing her life as a mom and creator. She just had her second baby not long ago, and life was busy but good. Her husband had taken off for a golf holiday with his buddies, leaving her home alone with their 2 little ones. It wasn't unusual for him, his job often took him away for weeks, and he liked his guys' trips too. Zara was tough. She handled it all like a pro, juggling feedings, playtime, and her content without missing a beat. That night in October felt different though. A massive storm rolled in, the kind that shakes the windows with thunder and pours rain like it's trying to flood the world. The wind howled around their isolated house, far from neighbors or streetlights. Darkness fell early, turning everything shadowy and tense. Zara had the kids tucked in bed upstairs, both out cold after a long day. Around 9 p.m., she finished her evening coffee in the kitchen, the warm mug a small comfort against the storm's roar. She did her usual check, locking doors and windows, peeking out to make sure everything was secure. The house felt extra empty with her husband gone, and the noise outside made her skin prickle. She stepped back into the kitchen for one last look and froze. The back door was ajar, just a crack, letting in a cold draft mixed with rain scent. Her heart skipped. Had she forgotten to lock it earlier? She moved closer, hand outstretched to pull it shut, but a wave of dizziness hit her hard. The room spun, her vision blurred, legs buckled. She stumbled, grabbing the counter for support, but it was no use. Everything went black as she fainted, collapsing to the cold tile floor. When Zara came to, she wasn't on the floor anymore. Someone had sat her up in a wooden chair at the kitchen table. Her head throbbed, mouth dry, but the first thing she noticed was her breathing heavy, forced through her nose like she was running a marathon. Panic bubbled as she realized why. Something sealed her mouth tight. She twisted her lips, feeling the sticky pull of duct tape across her lips and cheeks. Her hands were bound behind the chair, wrists taped together so snug she could barely wiggle her fingers. Looking down, she saw more tape wrapping her torso to the chair back, and her ankles tied to the legs. Every breath made the tape over her mouth bubble in and out, a terrifying rhythm in the quiet kitchen. She thrashed as much as she could, muffled screams trapped behind the gag. Her mind raced to the kids upstairs. Were they okay? Had this person hurt them? The storm still raged outside, masking any other sounds. Then, with a click, the lamp overhead flickered on, casting harsh shadows. Standing there was a man, medium build, face half hidden by a dark hood, pulled low, and a scarf wrapped around his mouth and chin. His eyes were calm but intense, locking onto hers. Zara's blood turned to ice. She was petrified, every muscle screaming to fight or flee, but she couldn't move. He stepped closer, voice low and steady. "I won't hurt you, but do you keep money in the house?" Zara shook her head frantically, mumbling "no" against the tape. It came out garbled, desperate. He had a large black bag slung over his shoulder, already stuffed with things from around the house, her expensive Dubai jewelry from the bedroom dresser, watches, cash from a drawer, even some electronics. He zipped it up casually, like this was just another errand. Then he said something that chilled her deeper than the storm. "Don't worry, your kids are still asleep." He'd been upstairs? Checked on them? The thought made her stomach twist in horror. He slung the bag higher and headed for the back door, the one he'd left open. Rain pelted in as he paused, turning back one last time. "I'm sorry for this," he said softly, almost regretful, before slipping out into the night. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Zara alone in the lit kitchen, heart pounding like thunder. She didn't waste a second. Twisting her jaw side to side, biting at the edges, she worked the tape over her mouth loose. It stung like fire peeling off skin, but after a few agonizing minutes, it ripped free. Gasping for full breaths, she yelled silently in relief, then attacked the rest. Her hands behind her took longer, fingernails scraping tape, shoulders straining, but she got them loose. Legs next, then she bolted upstairs, 2 steps at a time, bursting into the kids' rooms. Both slept soundly, chests rising and falling, unaware of the nightmare downstairs. Tears stung her eyes as she hugged them close, whispering thanks. Shaking, she grabbed her phone and dialed the police. Her voice cracked as she explained, giving details through sobs. They arrived fast despite the storm, lights flashing blue through the rain. Officers searched the house, took statements, dusted for prints. Zara walked them through every moment: the open door, the dizziness, waking up taped, the man's words. They found traces of a sedative in her coffee mug later, confirming he'd drugged her somehow. Entry through the back door, quiet and planned. The man was caught later that week, not far away. Zara had a decent online presence as a micro-influencer, family, vlogs, fashion tips, mom life. He'd followed her enough to know her routines, her husband's trips, when she was alone. In interrogation, he confessed everything. He'd lost his business in the tough economy, debts piling up, family struggling. Desperation pushed him to watch her posts, spot the patterns. He didn't want violence. That's why the apology, why he checked the kids. But the Dubai jewelry? Flashy stuff from her videos caught his eye. Easy defense. He even mentioned Kim Kardashian's Paris robbery years back. Same vibe, celebrity target left alone. Zara's resemblance to her, plus the influencer status, made her seem like an opportunity. Zara's no victim type. She's feisty, strong-willed, the kind who bounces back. Therapy helped, talking it out with friends, posting vaguely about resilience without details. She learned better security cameras, alarms, never alone posts. But full recovery? Trauma like that lingers. Waking at night, she'd check doors twice, heart racing at shadows. Coffee tasted different for months. Storms brought flashbacks. Pity crept in too for his desperation, the economy's cruelty. "I'm sorry for this," echoed. He wasn't a monster, just broken. Still, taped to that chair, kids asleep upstairs, helpless, that raw terror scarred deep. Months passed, and Zara rebuilt. She shared more cautiously online, turning pain into purpose, influencer safety tips, single mom strength. Her husband stepped up, fewer trips, The house felt safer with new locks, motion lights piercing the dark. Storms still rumble, but she faces them head-on now. That night changed her, etched fear into strength. She couldn't forget the man's eyes, the tape's bite, the bag's weight, but she wouldn't let it define her. Life moved forward, kids growing, content thriving, a family tighter. Yet in quiet moments, she'd wonder, what if the door stayed locked? What if no storm masked his steps? Survival's gift, gratitude mixed with ghosts. Looking back, the isolation amplified everything. Their house sat on acres, nearest neighbor a mile off, perfect for privacy but risky alone. Zara's influencer life glam posts, family smiles painted a target without meaning to. The coffee ritual, innocent unwind, became his entry. That dizziness wasn't just nerves. A quick spill sedative, tasteless, knocked her cold. Waking taped sparked pure animal panic, breathing ragged, bonds unyielding. His calm voice cut sharper than shouts. Kids asleep, twisted the knife, mercy or threat. Bag heavy with her treasures, gold chains from Dubai trips, heirlooms shining on camera. Police work was thorough. Prints on the door, fibers from his scarf, bag sold at a pawn shop traced back. Court came, he pled guilty, sentence fair time served, restitution. Zara faced him once, voice steady. You took more than jewelry. His apology rang true, eyes downcast. Economy's bite hit hard. Business gone. Bills endless. Kim parallel haunted headlines. Her case echoed his plan. Zara nodded, walked out unbroken. Healing wove slow. Nightly checks became habit. Kids' doors cracked open. Coffee switched to tea. Storms met with playlists loud. Friends rallied, husband home more. Family dinners rebuilt trust. Online, she pivoted empowerment series, Solo Mom Wins. Followers connected, shares spiked. Trauma therapy unpacked the freeze fight response raging inside. Pity lingered, his desperation humanized him. Yet forgiveness? Partial. That chair's creak still haunts dreams. Today, Zara thrives. Third kid on the way, brand deals rolling, house fortified. Storms pass, she locks eyes with thunder, strength forged in terror, unbreakable now. The story warns, visibility's double edge, isolation's risk. But her tale? Survival anthem. Alone that night, she rose mother, warrior, unbowed. About 2 years ago, someone close to me experienced something strange while traveling for work. It's a story that still makes them uneasy to talk about, and even now, when they tell it, there's a small tremor in their voice. I'll share it here from their perspective, exactly as it was remembered to me. I travel for work quite regularly. Conferences, networking events, seminars, it's all part of my job. After a while, it becomes routine. The airports blur together, hotel lobbies start to all look the same, and the days are a constant cycle of talking to people, smiling politely, and counting down the hours until you can finally get some real rest. That particular week was no different. The conference I attended had gone perfectly. Every presentation ran on time, every meeting went smoothly. By the end of the day, I felt exhausted in that satisfying way you do when everything has gone right. The evening wrapped up with dinner, nothing extravagant, just a nice meal with colleagues at a restaurant near the hotel. We laughed about little things, shared work stories, and by the time dessert came out, I was so full I could hardly move. All I could think about was finally sinking into the hotel's bed, that cool, crisp kind of exhaustion that makes you fall asleep before you can even turn out all the lights. After saying goodnight to everyone, I walked back alone to the hotel. My company had booked for me a business-style chain hotel. Neat and efficient. Nothing too fancy, but comfortable. I still remember the soft hum of the automatic lobby doors as I stepped inside, the warm golden lighting washing over the clean floors, and the faint note of air freshener mixed with furniture polish. It was quiet, only a couple of other guests hanging around near the elevators, tapping at their phones, probably just like me, tired and ready to crash. Once in my room, I changed into my sleepwear, put my phone on the nightstand, and crawled into the enormous bed. It was one of those with heavy white duvets and a pile of pillows that made you feel small in the best way. The TV murmured faintly in the background as I scrolled through my phone one last time, replying to a few messages and checking tomorrow's schedule. Everything was calm and normal. By 11:30, I was sound asleep. And then, a sound woke me. It was sudden, so loud and unnatural that it lifted me straight out of sleep before I could even understand what I was hearing. A man was screaming. At first, I thought maybe it was part of a dream. That strange space between sleep and awake fools you sometimes. You catch an echo of your own imagination. But then there it was again, louder this time. Clear and real and horrifying. It wasn't a scream of surprise or anger, it was agony. He sounded like he was in unbearable pain. There were groans, almost animalistic, low grinding noises mixed with gasps, shouts that broke apart halfway through, like his throat couldn't handle them. At one point, I thought I heard words buried under the noise, but couldn't understand any of them. For a few seconds, I just sat there in bed, frozen. My heart thudded so hard that it drowned out my own breathing. The logical side of me tried to take control, to find a reason for what I was hearing. A nightmare, maybe? Someone having a medical emergency? A drunk guest getting rowdy? But the longer I listened, the stranger it got. These weren't words or laughter. They weren't the frantic sounds of someone in panic or even intoxicated. There was a rhythm to it, almost like a dark chant mixed with inhuman growling. That's when I realized where the sound was coming from. It wasn't from the hallway. It wasn't outside my door. The noises were coming from the adjoining room, the one right next to mine, with only a single locked door separating us. In that moment, my stomach turned. The walls in those hotels are thin enough that you can hear the faint thud of footsteps or a cough through the other side. But this sounded close, like the man was standing right next to the connecting door. I could hear him moving, scratching, maybe even hitting the walls. Sometimes the noises grew frantic, like a struggle, and then fell quiet again before flaring back up. I sat still in the dark, staring at that connecting door. The little cracks of light from the hallway glowed faintly beneath it, and for one heart-stopping moment, I thought I saw the shadow of feet pacing back and forth on the other side. Then came the sound again. It wasn't just screaming anymore, it had changed. There was a voice now, low and rumbling, layered with something deeper. Like more than one person speaking in perfect unison, the sound crawled up my spine. It didn't sound human. I remember clutching the blanket in my hands, too scared to move, too terrified to call out. Every instinct told me to do something, to run, but where could I go? I was alone, and whatever was happening was only one thin door away. Finally, after what felt like forever, but was probably only a few minutes, I snapped out of it and reached for the phone on the nightstand. My hands shook as I pressed the button for the front desk. The moment the receptionist answered, my voice cracked as I tried to sound calm. "Hi, yes, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's someone in the room next to me. I think they might be in distress. I don't know what's going on, but I can hear them screaming. Could someone check on them, please?" There was a pause, then a polite but clipped response. "Of course, ma'am. We'll send someone to check right away." I thanked them, ended the call, and just sat there, listening. But it didn't stop. Whatever was happening continued on, a horrible, guttural symphony that made me feel sick. I waited for the sound of footsteps in the hallway, for the knock of hotel staff checking in, but none came. I thought about calling again, but the idea of someone knocking on that door while those sounds were spilling from behind it made my stomach twist. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the screams started to fade slowly at first, like someone was straining to suppress them. Then silence. No movement. Nothing. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Every few minutes, I thought I heard something, a faint groan, a shuffling step, but maybe it was just my imagination filling the void. My eyes stayed fixed on that connecting door until the soft gray light of dawn crept through the curtains. When the alarm finally went off, the sound nearly made me jump out of my skin. I got dressed and went downstairs for breakfast, but my appetite was gone. The lobby was bright and cheery, almost offensively normal after the night I'd just had. A bowl of fruit sat shining on the counter, soft jazz played over the speakers, and the girl at the front desk smiled when she saw me, as if nothing had ever happened. I hesitated before walking up. I didn't want to seem paranoid, but I had to know. Leaning on the counter, I said quietly, "I'm the one who called last night about the noise, the screaming next door." Her smile faltered slightly, polite professionalism kicking in. "Ah, yes. Room 214, right? I remember." My stomach fluttered nervously. Was everything okay? She looked genuinely puzzled. The guest in that room said he was fine. We didn't find anything wrong. I frowned. You mean he was awake when you checked? Yes, she said. He answered the door right away. Said he'd been asleep the whole night and didn't hear a thing. We apologized for disturbing him. Something about her calm tone made my blood run cold. As she turned away to help another guest, the question kept echoing in my head. How could he not have heard it? The sound had been so loud, so violent. There was no way anyone sleeping in that room couldn't have felt it shaking the walls. The rest of that morning passed in a blur. I packed up my things and left for the airport early, unable to shake the image of that connecting door from my mind. The hotel felt strange as I walked through the halls, too quiet, too still. When I reached the lobby, I looked back up at the row of floors above, at the closed windows reflecting the bright morning light, and wondered which one belonged to him. That was the last night of the conference. I went home that afternoon, exhausted but uneasy, as if I'd brushed against something dark and unseen. Now, even years later, I still think about that night every time I stay in a hotel. If there's a connecting door, I check the lock twice and wedge something heavy against it before bed. And sometimes, when the room's too quiet, I catch myself listening for that faint, impossible sound, those screams muffled just behind a wall. I tell myself it was nothing, that there's a perfectly rational explanation. But deep down, I'm not sure I believe that anymore. After all, the man next door swore he never made a sound, and yet something in that room was awake long before I was. I never thought I'd be in a position where I would actually be choosing a university, especially considering the grades I used to have. But now, after everything that has happened, I'm here, and it's something I never expected. This terrible event made me appreciate life in ways I never thought possible. It's honestly one of the few good things that came from this experience. I was just your typical rebellious girl. I wore black sneakers, torn-up jeans, a tank top, and a plaid shirt tied around my waist. Everyone at school knew me either because of the fingerless glove I always wore on my left hand, or because I slacked off in class, constantly making sarcastic comments to the teachers. During lunch, I always sat with the same group of girls, and we'd goof off together. We were known as the posse, but we never did anything too bad. That was until this one day. I think we need to show everyone that we're badasses, Catherine said with a grin. We all exchanged confused looks, trying to figure out what she meant. Kayla, always the skeptical one, responded, So, like what? Catherine just smiled wider and said, I'll tell you guys at the abandoned train station, okay? We finished out the school day, our curiosity growing, and then made our way to the station afterward. When we arrived, we saw some homeless people who typically camped out there. We chased them away with our baseball bats and grabbed the bottles they had left behind. Tara grabbed one of the bottles and was ready to throw it at Elise, who was holding a bat, poised to smash it. Pull! Elise yelled, and Tara threw the bottle into the air. Elise swung with all her might and shattered the bottle with one clean hit. We all laughed like idiots at the sight, our minds off the dull reality of school life. But then Catherine spoke again, this time her voice serious. Okay, guys, it's time, she said. We all gathered in a huddle, unsure of what was coming next. Catherine started outlining her plan. All right, this is my plan. We're gonna make some money for spring break so we can go crazy, she said, and we all got excited about having some cash of our own. We're going to rob Old Man Harbor's, Catherine said with a sadistic grin. My heart dropped. What? Are you insane? I stammered. Without a word, Catherine pulled out a gun from behind her back and pointed it at me. Care to repeat that again? She sneered. I froze. We can't do that, I said weakly, my voice trembling. We'll get caught, or worse, we'll get shot. Without warning, Catherine shot me in the leg. I screamed, collapsing to the ground, clutching my leg. Tara rushed forward, but Catherine quickly put the gun under her chin. Don't even think about it, Tara, unless you want a bullet in your pretty blue eyes. Tara, always the kind-hearted one, hesitated, then stepped back, frightened. Catherine yanked me up by my hair and slammed my head into the ground. She wore that sadistic smile the whole time. Then, she tucked the gun back and casually placed her bat on her shoulder. In one swift motion, she swung the bat hard into my stomach. The impact made me vomit, and I lay there writhing in pain, struggling to breathe. "Start beating her up," Catherine ordered the others. One by one, they grabbed their bats and began to hit me. Each strike felt like an eternity. I could barely focus through the pain. Finally, Catherine called for them to stop. Every inch of my body hurt. Blood dripped from my limbs, and I struggled to breathe, trying to stay conscious. "Get to the car," Catherine said, her voice satisfied. "If anyone's not there, I'll kill you after we rob Old Man Harbor's." I could barely process her words as I lay there, gasping for air. I saw Tara look at me with a sad expression, but there was nothing she could do. Catherine placed her foot on my head, pushing it hard into the dirt. "If you ever tell anyone, I'll shoot those stupid brains of yours out," she threatened. Then, without warning, she swung the bat again, this time slamming it into my ribs. I heard the sickening crack as my ribs broke. I screamed out in pain, my body trembling, unable to move. Catherine laughed as she walked away, leaving me on the ground, still twitching in agony. For what felt like an eternity, I lay there, too weak to move. Eventually, I gathered what little strength I had left. I struggled to stand but collapsed immediately, the pain unbearable. Still, I knew if I didn't get up, I wouldn't survive. I grabbed the bat lying next to me and tried to use it as a walking stick, but after a few steps, I fell again. I discarded the bat, attempting to walk without it, but the results were the same. I felt myself growing weaker and knew I needed help soon. Blood trickled from my mouth as I coughed. After what felt like forever, I stumbled into an alley behind a diner, hoping to find someone. I leaned against the corner trash can, exhausted. But before I could collapse again, I heard a familiar voice. "Dude, call the ambulance." It was Bradley, the linebacker from school, and he was standing over me, his voice frantic. He knelt beside me. "Hang in there, okay? You're going to be fine. Just hang in there." More students from my school appeared, gathering around me, concerned. I coughed up more blood, and one of the cheerleaders knelt beside me, her face pale with worry. "Oh my God, it's her," she gasped. "Where the heck is that damn ambulance?" She started running around, trying to find help. Then she sat next to me and gently ran her fingers through my hair. "Hang on, okay? Ashley's here." I felt myself slipping in and out of consciousness. Before I could say anything, I felt two gentle taps on my face. It was Ashley, but the next thing I knew, the paramedics arrived and they began working on me. I was loaded into the ambulance, and the last thing I remember was being wheeled inside. When I woke up, I saw Bradley sitting by my side. I tried to reach for his hand, but I was hooked up to so many wires and tubes. Bradley noticed I was awake and turned toward me. I looked to my right and froze. Tara was lying next to me, also hooked up to wires and tubes, but her eyes were closed. I felt tears welling up. Bradley saw my reaction and sighed. "She's your friend, right? Well, there's a lot more of your friends here, after what happened at Old Man Harbor's store. Catherine took her and 3 other girls from school, and she shot her. I believe her name is Maria." I barely managed to whisper, "Catherine." My voice was hoarse. Bradley's face grew somber. She didn't give up. She started shooting at the cops, so they shot back and killed her. I didn't know how to feel, and even now, I'm not sure what to make of it all. Since then, the cheerleaders and football team made sure I always sat with them at lunch, and my popularity grew a little. Tara tried to talk to me a few times, but the football players and cheerleaders always stood between us, and Tara eventually gave up, walking away. Finally, I decided to go to Tara's house to see what she wanted to talk about. She apologized for what had happened, for what she had done, and though I wanted to forgive her, I couldn't help but feel a distance growing between us. My friend's seaside cottage was completely covered in blue denim curtains, drapes, tablecloths, everything. Sarah Pine had invited me to come along when she opened it up for the summer, getting it ready for the season. She admitted she felt a bit uneasy about going in alone, and I never turned down a chance for a trip by the sea. The blue surprised me, though. Sarah usually sticks to reds and warmer colors. They suit her fair skin much better. She noticed my puzzled look right away. She's terribly nearsighted, but she picks up on things with some kind of inner sense, like she reads your mind. "You don't like the portieres, curtains, or table covers," she said, settling into a chair right in front of one of those heavy blue drapes. Truth is, I don't like them either. But I put them up to help out someone. And now that he's resting peacefully in his grave, I hope it's all done with. Whose grave are you talking about? I asked, curious despite myself. Mr. J. Billington Price's. Who was he? Doesn't sound like much of a story. Sarah smiled faintly. Then let me tell you. It all started last autumn. I was heading back to New York from this very cottage, riding the fast express they call the Flying Yankee. As the train sped along, my mind wandered to old legends like the Flying Dutchman, that ghostly ship doomed to sail forever, and Wagner's dramatic opera about it. How times have changed with all our steam engines and railroads, I thought. I gazed out the window at the blurring landscape, the horizon curving away as we flew forward. But every so often, out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a man sitting in a seat a few rows ahead, across the aisle. Each time, I'd turn fully to look, and the chair number 13 was empty. No one there at all. It was such a strange trick of the light or my imagination. I pulled out my lorgnette, those little opera glasses, and peered harder. The seat looked even emptier. Still, the more I told myself it was vacant, the clearer the figure became, but only in that sneaky side vision. It made my skin crawl. Passengers came and went, and I dreaded someone claiming that spot. What if they sat right on whatever I was seeing? First, a bag got placed there, and it gave me chills. They took it off at the next stop. Then a mother put her baby in the chair. The little thing started giggling, as if invisible fingers were tickling it gently. There was something deeply unsettling about seat 13. Whenever I looked away, I felt watched intensely, like eyes boring into me from that empty space. I couldn't let silly fancies take over, so I rang for the porter, asked for a small table, and pulled a deck of cards from my bag. Solitaire would distract me. I was stuck on where to place the 7 of spades. "Where does it go?" I muttered under my breath. Then a voice right behind me said clearly, "Play the 4 of diamonds on the 5 first, and you can do it." I jumped. The car held just a few others. A newlywed couple lost in their own world, a mother with 3 noisy kids, and a stern-looking preacher from some strict denomination. Who had spoken? "Go ahead with the 4, ma'am," the voice repeated, patient as can be. I glanced over my shoulder, heart pounding. At first, there was just a hazy blue cloud, like cigar smoke, but without any smell. Then, it cleared, and I saw him a young man, ordinary as they come. By some gut feeling, I knew he was the shadowy figure from seat 13, visible, yet not quite there. He had to be a traveling salesman, a drummer as they called them back then, and clearly, a ghost. The idea of a salesman's ghost struck me as absurd. They're always so full of life, pushing deals everywhere. You'd think if one died, he'd stay put, not haunt trains. This one looked utterly everyday, friendly, pushy, all business. But his face carried a look of pure despair and horror that made the whole thing even more bizarre. Normally, I'd never chat with a stranger, especially not about cards. But a ghost? Etiquette doesn't cover that. It was awful, really. This bold spirit showed me every move, then pleaded for me to reshuffle so he could share more tips. I was too stunned to argue. I played along quietly, not wanting anyone to think I was talking to thin air and label me mad. Soon enough, he started telling his story, his voice steady but edged with desperation. "Ma'am," he began, "I've been riding this very car back and forth since February 22, 189. That's 7 months and 11 days now. Haven't spoken to a soul the whole time. For a salesman, that's torture you can imagine. You know the Flying Dutchman tale? Doomed to sail endlessly until kindness breaks the curse? That's me, almost. But let me back up. That day, 4 of us drummers met up on the train, each selling for different companies. One pushed wool, another baking powder, one boots and shoes, and me, cotton goods. We grabbed seats together and swapped shop talk. Washington's birthday, and those guys bragged huge about sales, lies piled on lies. The baking powder fellow inflated his numbers like one of his cans exploding. I told the honest truth. Not a single sale yet. Then, in a fit of frustration, I swore a mighty oath, not some casual curse, but a huge, heaven-challenging vow. I said I'd sell a case of blue denim on that trip, even if it took eternity. Talk made us thirsty. So, at Rivermouth Station, we hopped off for beer. It's the best around, you know how it is. Sorry, ma'am, forgot I'm talking to a lady. We ran to catch the train. I slipped, fell under the wheels. Next thing, an inquest over my mangled body. There I sat, gutted like a fish, on the corner of the undertaker's table, wondering which juror might buy denim. That's when my oath hit me. I was cursed to wander until I sold that case. I tried calling out, offering it cheap, but no one heard. Verdict came. Accidental death, my own fault for beer and rushing. Railroad off the hook. The other salesman handled my remains, wrote a glowing letter to my family about my charm and wit. Wish I'd been less witty then. Could have fibbed about sales or wished for luck. But no, the oath sealed it. Back and forth forever on this line, stuck in seat 13. Folks sit on my lap lucky if it's a sweet baby like today's. They dump coats, bags, even those free train magazines on me. Play cards right under my nose. Terrible players, some of them. You're the first to notice me, ma'am, so I spoke up, no harm meant. I see pity in your eyes. Remember the Dutchman? Saved by a good woman's love, Senta married him. I'm not asking marriage, ma'am. See your wedding ring? You make some man happy. Never was the marrying type myself, ghost or not. But if you'd help a solid act of charity, take the denim case at $72.50. It's worth $80 now. Deal? His words weren't fancy, but his eyes burned with desperate hope, terrifying, pity, fear. Something pushed me. I skipped buying that white and gold evening cloak I'd wanted. Handed over $72.50 to empty air, took his receipt signed J. Billington Price. He smiled, thanked me deeply, faded back to seat 13. The rest of the trip, I felt foggy spells, though I didn't see him. In New York, stepping off, a firm hand seemed to steady my elbow down the stairs. My bag, never heavy, felt feather-light as I crossed the platform handle, still in my grip, but weight gone. Cold fingers brushed mine once or twice. I believe his ghost walked with me, carrying the load. Haven't sensed him since. Hope he's at peace. But those blue denims? Never wanted them. Next day, a dray from a big wholesaler pulled up, dropped off the case with a paid bill attached. What now? Couldn't hawk fabric door to door? Couldn't donate without questions. So I used it all here. Curtains, covers, the works. Ruins my coloring, as you see. Pity a vain woman like me, but give me credit. I saved a soul, costing only my looks. Sarah paused, eyes on me. I sat there, the cottage suddenly feeling smaller, the blue heavier. Her story hung in the air like sea mist, simple yet chilling. That empty chair on the train, the invisible salesman with his eternal sales pitch, it all felt too real. I'd ridden trains like the Flying Yankee myself, stared out at rushing horizons, felt that prickle of being watched. But a ghost drummer, stuck forever because of one rash promise over beer? It sounded ridiculous, yet Sarah's calm voice made it stick. She went on, filling in details I'd half missed in shock. After the delivery, I stared at that crate for hours. Blue denim, heavy bolts of it, stamped with the wholesaler's mark. The receipt matched his signature perfectly. J. Billington Price, in faded ink. Part of me wanted to ship it back, claim a mistake. But what if it broke the deal? What if he came back, angrier? No, I thought. Better to honor it. So I unpacked it all, sewed covers, hung drapes. Took days, my fingers blue-stained for weeks. Neighbors asked why the changed summer refresh. I said. Truth was deeper, tied to that train ride. I glanced around the cottage again. Sunlight filtered through the denim, casting everything in a dull navy glow. It clashed with the whitewashed walls, the sandy floors, the sea views. Sarah followed my eyes. Yes, it's gloomy, but every time I see it, I remember him, that pushy ghost, so alive in death. His face, ordinary yet haunted, eyes pleading. Drummers like him crisscross the country, full of bluster, hiding loneliness. Imagine eternity like that, unseen, unheard, peddling to phantoms. We spent the afternoon airing the place, beating rugs on the porch. Sarah hummed as she worked, lighter than when I'd arrived. Helping him changed me, she admitted over tea. Vanity aside, it felt right, like the Dutchman, legend's redemption through kindness. Maybe that's why the cottage feels safer now. As evening fell, waves crashing outside, I wondered about seat 13. Next time on that train, would I sense him? Or Had Sarah's charity set him free? The story lingered with me long after. Back home, I avoided blue fabrics, checked train seats warily. Sarah wrote later, "Cottage perfect for summer, no more nerves." Her gift, those denims bought peace for a restless spirit. Simple charity, profound ripple. Who knows what unseen eyes watch us daily? If you're still here listening, and these stories are keeping you company while you drift off, take a second to like the video and subscribe to True Nightmares. So there's always another long, creepy episode waiting for your next sleepless night. A group of us traveling salesmen, worn out from the road, lounged in the hotel lobby, swapping stories late into the night. It was Rodney Green's turn to talk, and he had that knowing look in his eye as he leaned forward and started his tale. I wouldn't say everyone in Arkansas believes in ghosts, but a few years back, I had something happen there that I'd swear by. It was late fall, and I found myself stuck in this tiny, rundown village called Buckstown. Barely a dot on the map, the place was as dirty and forgotten as they come. The Buckstown Inn, where I stayed, matched the town perfectly creaky, dusty, and full of shadows. Folks around there still held on to old superstitions, whispering about spirits and curses like it was the old days. Back before the war, the inn was run by a man they called the meanest soul alive. Krabby didn't even cover it. He was a miser who hoarded every penny with a devilish grip. Rumors flew that he'd even killed guests in their sleep to rob them blind. I don't know the truth of it, but even now, that old inn carries a dark cloud, like echoes of old terrors still linger in the walls. The current owner, Bunk Watson, real name Bunker, I think was a total opposite. Classic Southern type, lazy, carefree, always grinning through a wad of chewing tobacco while puffing on a corncob pipe and sipping strong whiskey. When the old miser died, everything passed to this distant relative, Bunk, who moved in right away with his family from a nearby spot. Everyone knew the previous owner had stashed away a fortune somewhere on the property, but years of searching turned up nothing. By now, hope of finding it was pretty much dead. Bunk? He couldn't care less. His wife kept the place running, cooking meals on time despite the mess. What more did he need? A pile of gold would have stumped him anyway, probably hand it straight to her to figure out. Green paused, lighting a cigarette, letting the smoke curl up as we all leaned in. One story that stuck around was about a ghost in the room where the old miser died. People swore they heard sighs, moans, and creepy noises at odd hours, classic ghost signs. That room had been empty for years, too spooky for anyone. I soaked up all those tales with real interest, then made up my mind. I'd sleep there that night and see for myself. Told Bunk my plan. He just shook his head, shrugged, spat a stream of tobacco juice, and hollered for his wife, Jane. "Let the old lady handle it," he drawled. A few extra dollars changed her mind quick, and she bustled off to make up the bed in that doomed room. Green's voice dropped lower, drawing us closer. 9 o'clock. I said goodnight to the family, grabbed my candle, and climbed those shaky stairs. The room hit me like a damp fog, thick air, musty smell that clung to everything. I bolted the door, climbed into bed, and propped myself up with pillows, wide awake and waiting. Overhead, the rafters were caked in dust, long past their whitewash days, draped in thick cobwebs that swayed like veils. Candlelight danced on the walls and ceiling, throwing weird, twisting shadows that flickered with every wisp of web. Even to a level-headed guy like me, it started feeling ghostly, like the place was alive with secrets. I waited hours, what felt like forever, but no sign of anything. Maybe the light scared it off, so I blew out the candle. Pitch black settled in, and just like that, a pale hand slid right through the locked door. Then the whole figure appeared a ghost, white-sheeted and floating. It glided toward the bed, raised a long arm, bony finger pointing straight at me, and rasped, "Come with me." I was out of bed in a flash, some force pulling me after it. The door swung open on its own, and we plunged down the stairs, through dim halls, into a cold cellar, along twisting underground passages I never knew existed. Upstairs again, in and out of hidden rooms that rambled through the old inn like a maze. Finally, out a back door into the night. I was in my nightshirt, barefoot on the frosty ground, but I couldn't stop. The ghost moved slow and silent, like death itself, leading me to the orchard at the far end of the property. Under a gnarled old tree, it pointed to the dirt and whispered in that hollow voice, "Dig here. Great treasure lies buried." Then it vanished, gone like mist. I stood there shaking, heart pounding, brain spinning, snapped out of it enough to start digging with my hands, but the night chill bit through my thin clothes, and I was half frozen. Smart move. Mark the spot and come back at dawn. I broke off a low branch to remember by. Exhausted, I stumbled back inside. Next morning, banging on the door and Bunk's croaky voice woke me. It was noon already. I'd planned to check out that day, but curiosity burned too hot. Unpacked my bag for a longer stay. This was my first ghost encounter. I wasn't about to miss a chance at more. Breakfast was quiet. Jane served me, eyes darting my way with a funny look, like she itched to ask about the night but held back. Bunk was blunt. "Didn't sleep much, huh?" He grinned slyly. "Heard some commotion?" I shot back. He drawled, "Yup, a bit. Figured you'd have trouble in there." That afternoon, I snuck to the orchard. Shock. The branch I'd snapped was gone. Searched everywhere, found a spot under an apple tree where something similar had been yanked off. But every single tree showed the same. Broken twigs, all identical. More mystery. "Tonight settles it," I muttered. Green chuckled dryly. Pleaded tiredness that evening, hit the bed early. No one batted an eye. Bunk asked, "Trying it again?" "Damn right," I said. "I'll camp there all winter till I crack that ghost." Kept the candle lit till midnight, then snuffed it. Boom, soft glow filled the room, and there it was at the bed's foot, same white figure from before. Bony finger beckoned, voice like a grave. "Follow?" I leaped up, but it shot ahead, flying through the door, downstairs. I chased hard. At the bottom, something tripped me, unseen hand on my ankle. I sprawled flat, but scrambled up, gaining ground. Nearly grabbed its robes at the outside door. Cold shot through me like ice water. It turned, eyes flashing that same evil gleam from last night. Out into the orchard I burst, sure I'd catch it in the open. No luck, it darted back inside, slamming the door. Wild with fear and fury, I hurled myself at the heavy oak. Hinges groaned and gave. I crashed into the front room just in time to see white skirts vanishing up the stairs. I bolted after, into an old chamber. There, it cowered in the corner, candle in hand now, arm raised high to scare me off. "Got you!" I yelled, lunging and grabbing hold. The sheets fell away, and there stood Jane, the innkeeper's wife, pale as death herself. The lobby went dead quiet as Green finished. Next morning, I threatened cops. She spilled it all, dressed as a ghost to lure guests to their forgotten inn, turning haunted rumors into cash. The treasure? Probably her little scam to keep folks digging and staying longer. Bunk knew, played dumb. They made a killing off spooky tales. Me? I left with a story no one believed, but it happened. But Green's tale didn't end there in my mind. It stuck, growing details as I pictured that crumbling inn. Buckstown felt real, the kind of backwoods spot where dirt roads twist into nowhere, air thick with pine and decay. I'd been through Arkansas myself, seen those sagging porches and eyes that size you up like you're hiding gold. Bunk, with his tobacco-stained grin, embodied the easygoing South, content with cornbread and moonshine, while Jane schemed behind the scenes, her ghost act a desperate grab for tourist dollars in a dying town. Imagine that first night deeper, candle flame guttering, shadows clawing the peeling wallpaper like fingers from beyond. The air wasn't just musty, it carried faint rot, whispers of the miser's bloody past. Every creak of the inn settled into bones, wind rattling panes like impatient spirits. When that hand pierced the door, it wasn't quick. Pale fingers curled around the edge first, nails like old ivory. Then the sheeted form oozed through, defying the bolt. Its steps? Soundless drags across warped boards, leaving chill drafts in wake. The maze tour haunts me still cellar damp as a tomb, earth walls glistening, passages narrowing till shoulders scraped stone. Up again into attics, thick with dust mites, dancing in moonlight shafts. Rooms frozen in antebellum time, faded portraits staring, furniture shrouded like corpses. Out to the orchard, trees twisted sentinels under harvest moon, leaves crunching like brittle bones. That spot under the tree? Loose soil begged fingers, promising chests of coins glinting like false teeth. Morning light revealed the scam's cleverness orchard rigged with breakable branches everywhere, fooling any mark. Jane's eyes at breakfast held sly triumph, mixed with nerves. Bunk's drawl hid chuckles. Second night ramped terror. Glow not from candle but ethereal mist. Ghost fiercer, pursued a fever dream. Tripping in the stairwell, tasting splinters and dust. Robe's fabric numbingly cold, like wet linen from a grave. Crashing through that door, wood shards flying, heart thunderous as I cornered her. Her confession poured out over coffee, voice trembling, started small, white sheet from attic trunk, moans practiced from old radio ghost stories. Bunk suggested the treasure bit after finding miser's hidden ledgers, no real gold, but enough to seed legends. Guests bid every time, some dug half the night, stayed weeks hoping. Prophets bought new roof, stocked bar. But me? Caught red-handed, forced truth. They begged silence. I took free rooms instead. Left Buckstown richer in yarn than wallet, but wiser. Arkansas holds more shadows than shine, superstitions rooted deep where old sins fester. Next sales trip, skip that inn, but scan every lobby for wide-eyed drummers with real tales. Ghosts? Maybe not. But human tricks chill deeper than any specter. I'm not the type to dream up wild stories or get lost in mushy feelings. Anyone who knows me will tell you that I've always kept things practical. Feet on the ground. That mindset got even stronger over 20 years as a detective on the police force in Westford, a big manufacturing town buzzing with factories and hard work. Cops deal with real life every day. Chases, fights, evidence you can touch. It leaves little room for ghost tales or superstition. But once, I was dead certain that a ghost from a famous burglar's past gave me the tip that launched my career. I've shared this story plenty of times, heard all kinds of reactions, some laughed, some nodded thoughtfully. Didn't matter. Back then, I knew what I knew. 18 years ago, I was a young plainclothes officer in Westford, just 23. Two things burned in my mind: getting promoted and marrying my girl, Alice Moore. She was the prettiest, smartest woman in town, with eyes that sparkled like sunlight on the canal and a laugh that cut through the factory smoke. But promotion came first without the raise and respect. Marriage was off the table. I hustled on every shift, eyes peeled for a big break. My bosses started noticing, dropping hints about my bright future. Still, I hungered for that one case to skyrocket me up. Late September, 1873. Last week of the month, I sat in my cramped lodgings after a long day. Westford was quiet, no big crimes, just petty stuff. Part of me wished for chaos, something I could crack wide open. Lost in those thoughts, a voice cut through the dusk. "Good evening, officer." I whipped around. Lamp unlit, room dimming fast, but I made out a man by the chest of drawers between door and window. His chair wedged tight, he must have slipped in silent, as smoke and sat before speaking. "Good evening," I shot back. "Didn't hear you knock." He chuckled low, sly, like he owned a secret. "Nah, officer, I'm quiet by nature. Noiseless, you might say." I sized him up sharp. Stocky build, square jaw like a hammer, small nose that punched out anyway. Eyes small, twinkling under bushy brows. Rough wool suit, loud belcher scarf knotted at his thick neck. Big hands fidgeting a fur-capped dogskin, maybe. He grinned silent, making the air thick, uncomfortable. "What do you want?" I demanded. "Bit of business," he said casual. "Head to the station, no deals here." "Righto, govnor, but it's you I need. Superintendent might hand it off." "Nah, you're young, hungry for promotion. Am I right?" I pressed, "Spit it out." "Ain't you keen to climb?" he teased. No harm admitting it. "Yeah, I want promotion." He beamed. "Good lad, makes you sharp. Listen, got a job for you, nab this, and sergeant stripes by week's end. Praise, compliments the lot." "Out with it," I said, guessing. "Turning in your mates for reward?" He shook head. "Reward? Useless to me. Nah. Ever hear of Light-Toed Jim?" Who hadn't? Sharpest burglar in England, household name. Convicted at Northminster Assizes in 71, 10 years penal. Escaped Portland after 2 slick vanishing act. Lately, whispers he was back prowling. Light-toed Jim? I echoed. What about him? He's here in Westford now, cracking Miss Singleton's place tonight, that rich old lady on Mapleton Road. All women servants, pets everywhere. Valuable silver plate. Enters scullery window, 1 a.m. Through kitchens to butler's pantry, lady butler, no men. Safe's there. Portland pals tipped him. How'd you know? Never mind. Be there, catch him red-handed. Promotion yours. Watch entry, tail him. Armed, he fights dirty. Hold up, I said. Irregular. Who are you? How's Jim's business your news? Write it down. Turned for paper and pen, not 10 seconds. Spun back, gone. Door shut, no creak. Flew open empty stairs. Down to hall. Landlady Mrs. Mariner at door with friend Mrs. Higgins. Which way'd the man go? Mrs. Mariner blinked odd. No man downstairs, Mr. Parker. Me and Mrs. Higgins been here 3/4 hour ironing all day for her. Out for air. No soul passed. Rubbish. The guy I sent up 20 minutes ago. She gaped. Mrs. Higgins sighed. Sorry, sir, but you're drunk or feverish. No one's in or out for an hour, Bible oath. Checked side rooms. Under bed, nothing. Only one door. Lit pipe, stewed. Women lying. Or he ghosted out. No supernatural nonsense for me. No shift that night. Resolve hardened. Check Singleton's, test the tip. Figured visitor was Jim's old mate, splitting for grudge. Thieves fall out, cops gain. Kept quiet from chief, solo glory sweeter. Grabbed revolver, headed out. New housekeeper, tough widow, no nonsense. Told bare bones. She hid me in pantry cupboard by safe, perfect view, pounce spot. Locked in after midnight, house still. Cramped, but mind raced. Promotion? Marriage? Air felt off, dreamlike. Creak snapped, focus door or floor, eye to peephole. Light gleamed keyhole, door eased, lantern man. Face shadowed, then clear, light-toed Jim. Watched, impressed. Slim, wiry, not fighter like me. Checked window, tugged my cupboard door, locked pantry, eyed safe, set lamp, unpacked tools, pro kit, need as surgery. Waited. Plan. When back turned, burst silent. Pin him. Moment hit. Drilling lock, focused. Click drowned by his noise. Burst out, knocked tools, slammed him down. Rage grunt, he squirmed eel-like. Cuffed one hand, fumbled other, he whipped knife, slashed wild, rolled, stabbed my arm, hot blood. Fury surged, grabbed drill, cracked temple, out cold. Cuffed full, ankles too. Arm gashed bad, bleeding. Housekeeper bandaged. Dragged Jim to station with patrolman. Inspector gawked. Light-toed Jim, James Bland, nonsense. Cells, confirmed. Big win, Parker. Home exhausted. Surgeon stitched arm, superficial, sore. Lodgings, stranger in my chair, rising. Well, Guvnor nailed him fair. Jim and me quits. Yeah, I said, stunned. Satisfied sigh. Good, we're even. Who are you? Sat him. Coat off, to bed turned. Gone. Door bolted. Baffled. Morning station. Jim wanted me. Cell. Bandaged head. Hard hit Guvnor. Sorry you'd have knifed me. How'd you know? Solo job, no pals, no talk. Told you, your pal. Bollocks. Describe him. Did. Jim paled. Terror real. Barksy Bill. Old mate. Grudge? I owed him. Treated shabby, he vowed revenge. But Guvnor, that's his ghost. Dead 3 years. Mind reeled. Jim clammed up. Later Portland again. Told cops. Laughed off. Got stripes. Wed Alice. Climbed ranks. Credited ghost. 5 years on, Sheffield, trained from Westford, changed leads. Car empty-ish. Him, respectable now. Recognized instant. Fear hit. He laughed. Knew me, eh? Owe ya much, Guvnor. Thought ghost 5 years. How'd you vanish? Roared. Ghost. Lodged same house. Slipped attic, you looked down. I up. Jim said that? Aye. Tried killing me. Left for dead. Woke. Swore payback. Quit crime, drains, and pipes. Spotted Jim near Singleton's. Watched nights. Knew his moves, Portland vet. Tipped ya. Time spot on? Aye. Old hand. Lesson. Search up and down. No ghost, just grudge and luck. That twist settled it, but echoes lingered. Westford's factories chugged on, smoke veiling secrets like my early nights. Alice and I built life kids, house, but I'd glance attics wary, wonder at shadows. Barksy Bill, alive, scheming, quiet, taught sharper eyes. Jim rotted in Portland, grudge circle closed. Cop still ribbed ghost cop, but promotion stuck. Practical man? Mostly. Yet late trains, dim cars, a twinkle under brows. Who'd know? Westford bred hard realism, but cracks let odds slip through. Told Alice once, she smiled, squeezed hand. Luck or ghost, ya earned it. True. Rise mine, tip or tipper. Years piled cases, mills robbed, strikes violent. Each stakeout, cupboard cramp recalled, arm scar itched phantom. Bill vanished, post-train honest work, or shadows. Never chased, debt paid. Retirement neared, tales to grandkids. No ghosts, just grit. But truth? That dusk voice launched all. Practical? Aye. But whispers persist where light fades. Room for the night, stranger? Well, yes, sir. We can fix you up with a spot. Pull up a chair and sit yourself down. I thanked him and settled in, glancing around the isolated cabin nestled deep in the Rocky Mountains. Don't you find this place awfully lonely? No neighbors, no signs of life anywhere. What brought you out here, so far from everything? The old man, Kit Robinson, eyed me steadily. Maybe it's best not to ask too many questions all at once. No offense meant, I said quickly. Just curious, that's all. Don't mention it, he replied with a nod. Come on in, and we'll rustle up some supper. Polly, bring the food. You're just in time. Polly appeared right away. A classic Western girl, tall and slender, with graceful moves and clear, limpid eyes that sparkled in the firelight. Her skin was fresh and fair, her spirit high and untamed. She hadn't had much schooling, but that wasn't her fault, living out here in the wilds. As she set the table, my eyes, John Barr's eyes, lingered on her a moment too long. A flush crept up her cheeks. For the first time, she seemed awkwardly aware of her bare feet on the rough dirt floor. Maybe that's why she stumbled, spilling some stew from an earthen bowl onto my knee. Her eyes flashed with anger, a tear glistening on her lashes. She hesitated, like she might apologize, but her father's sharp curse made her slam the bowl down and rush out. A second later, I caught a flutter of her pink calico dress behind a stack of rocks. Old Kit saw it too. Don't blame you for thinking it ain't right, he muttered. She's a smart girl, pretty as a picture. Should have been sent off to school, proper educated. But she won't leave her worthless pa. I ought to be horsewhipped for coosin' at her, but I ain't the man I used to be. Sittin' here on guard makes me jumpy as a cat. His words hung heavy. We finished supper in silence, then stepped outside. Chairs tilted back against the cabin wall, we watched the evening settle. Something in my open face must have softened old Kit. The gentle wind sighed through the tall spruce pines, and the dying sun stretched long shadows across the green meadow. From our spot, the vast Rockies rolled out like an endless sea of peaks and valleys. I'd come to this forgotten mining camp, chasing a man my father, or so I hoped, lost years ago in these wilds. Stranger, I've taken a shine to you, Kit said suddenly. Something about you reminds me of someone I knew. You look honest. Tell me, do you believe in ghosts? The question hit abrupt. I shook my head, no. Disappointment crossed his weathered face. Well, I've seen him with my own eyes. A flicker connected the pink calico to some old memory in my mind. Can't you tell me the story? I'd like to, if you'll swear on your derringer never to blab. Will you? I started to smile, but pictured Polly's unshed tears. Maybe humoring him would ease things for her. I'll swear. And I did, pulling the little pistol from my belt. Kit nodded toward the old spruce at the trail's bend, cliff looming above. That's the spot I'm watchin' and guardin' till the owner claims it. I'm quick on the draw, dead shot. I know a man when I see one. To start, I had a partner once, a real man, from New York State. Never pried why a fine gent like him was diggin' in the Rockies, but figured there was a reason. Light hair. We called him Sandy, tough as grit. We were opposites, him quiet and steady, me wild, reckless, liking my Mountain Dew too much. When we scraped dust, gold dust, we split it. I'd hike to the station over the cliffs, send my share to Helena Bank. Always left some hid for the girl to find. Sandy had his secret bank, unknown to all but him. Every split, he'd stash part there, give the rest for his boy getting educated at some college back east in Boston. Thought the world of that lad. Then my old woman faded, and we buried her up the hillside. Hard times, stranger. Kit's voice cracked, but he pushed on. When Sandy gave up the ghost, I didn't care for nothing. Buried him proper, all the boys from the diggins came, eyes wet. No preacher, but the girl prayed at the grave. Don't know where she learned it, must have been her ma. Next mornin', she showed me a letter Sandy gave her before dyin'. For his boy, to hand over if he ever came west. She's kept it safe. He paused, staring into the dusk. That evenin', feelin' low, throat tight, I wandered up the gulch to the big rock edge, wonderin' where I'd find another pard like Sandy. Sudden like, a hand touched my shoulder, light taps. I jumped, half thinkin' it was him, but it was just the girl. Caught me off guard, then I got mad. "What you doin' up here?" I growled. Tears in her eyes, she said, "Pa, don't be mad. I was lonesome. Saw you headin' this way. Followed to tell you Sandy said give his boy the pile when he comes." "Coulda waited till I got home," I snapped, sending her back. Kit spat into the dirt. Alone again, I puzzled where Sandy hid his stash. No luck. Night fell quick. These mountains ain't safe after dark without your iron. Hurried back. Round the bend by that pine, I glanced up at the cliff. There sat Sandy, plain as day. Feet rooted like lead. Couldn't move or yell. Jerked forward, he vanished, ran home, kept mum. Boys'd say, the whiskey ate my brains. Seeing snakes next. The fireflies began their dance as he continued. Next night, had to check. There, he sat again, sad-like, scratching marks on the rock with fingers. Had my gun this time, crept closer. He slipped away. Third night, early as dusk hit, trees stretchin' like spooks. Looked up him again, markin' and scratchin', eyes mournful. Got bold, edged nearer. "Sandy, what's wrong? Boys mess the buryin'?" Then it hit me. "Or the dust hid where you're sittin'?" He looked up, happy as smile lit his face, poof, gone. Since then, I've guarded that spot till the right one claims it. Kid-eyed me sharp. "What'd you say your name was?" "John Willett Barr," I said, heart suddenly pounding. "Polly, come here, girl. What was Sandy's full name?" "Forgot." "What you want it for?" she asked wary. "Ain't tellin'. My secret. Come on, gal, or it won't be healthy." "Fine," she grumbled. "John Willett Barr." My face drained white. I half rose, but Kit shoved me down. "Fetch the letter, Polly." "What you gonna do, Pa?" "Promise Sandy on oath to keep it till the right one came. He's here. Get it, quick." Polly stared, bewildered, then joy sparked her eyes. Whispered to herself, knew he was the one. She slipped inside. In that aching moment, truth crashed. The man I sought, my father, was gone, sleeping eternal under the hillside mound. Years parted us, now forever. Turned to honest Kit, who'd watched over him. He grinned rugged, pointing to the cliff by the spruce. There he be, stranger like I seen him nights. Year dad, my pard, poor old Sandy. I sprang forward, voice breaking. "Father, father." Mountains echoed the cry, but arms clasped only night shadows. The Rockies swallowed my grief as stars pierced the sky. Kit clapped my shoulder. "He led you here, son. Knew you'd come." Polly handed the letter, eyes soft. Sandy's words. Love for his boy. Instructions for the hidden gold. Enough for college finish. New life. We'd dig tomorrow, under watchful pines. That night, cabin felt less lonely. Stories flowed. Sandy's arrival, city polish, clashing rough camps. Quiet strength steadied, Kit through brawls, claims jumped. My ma's tales matched father left for gold, promised return rich. Letters stopped, I grew, vowed search. Westward now, fate's pull. Dawn broke golden. We trekked trail, cliff looming. Spruce whispered welcome. At Sandy's spot, marks clear. Map to stash crevice behind loose boulders. Dug, feverish, earth-yielding canvas bags, heavy with dust. Fortune gleamed, father's legacy. Kit beamed. He rest easy now. Polly smiled, shy, hand brushing mine. Future bloomed amid peaks. Years later, college done, I returned. Kit gone, Polly wed another sweet life. Cabin stood, tended, visited Cliff often, felt his presence. Not ghost, but spirit guiding across divides. Mountains teach, loss carves deep, but bonds endure. Father's smile in stone scratches lived on, calling sons home. Expanded reflections deepened the tale. Isolation bred Kit's vigilance harsh winters, claim jumpers lurking. Polly's innocence shone, wildflower spirit, dreams of dresses, books beyond calico. My journey, city boy hardened by trails, father's absence fueling fire. Encounters en route, grizzlies roaring, rivers raging, camps rowdy with dreamers. Each step honed resolve. Kit's yarn chilled initial ghosts' folly to practical mind, yet dusk visions rang true, emotion raw. Letters ink faded, words eternal. Boy mine, if you read, know love never died. Claim what's yours, live well. Tears blurred as Polly watched, understanding blooming. Gold banked, I built, ranch nearby, family grown. Told kids Sandy's legend, no spooks, just loyalty. They climbed cliff, traced marks, felt Grandpa's watch. Rockies eternal, stories whisper windswept. Father found in memory, gold, gathered kin, lonesome cabin, home now, forever. North of Mississippi City and its nearby town of Hansborough stretches a vast pine forest. Mile after mile, with only a handful of scattered cabins breaking the endless green. Black Creek and Red Creek, along with their twisting branches, drain the whole area into the Pascagoula River to the east. Those swamps along the Pascagoula make perfect hideouts, and the thick, untouched bottoms of the creeks offer the best browsing spots for deer. No hunter could ask for richer ground. Knowing all that, a small group of gentlemen set out from Hansborough the day before a sharp, cold Christmas in a big, four-wheeled wagon. They planned a 30-mile haul into that pine wilderness for a full week's deer hunt. Leading the way was Jim Caruthers, a real woodsman born and bred, and handling the driving and all the camp chores was Jack Lyons, a jolly black man who could whip up the finest hoe cake or grill a venison steak to perfection. His laugh carried a quarter-mile easy, and his easygoing cheer spread wide as those echoing pines. The first few days in hunting camp brought all the usual thrills, crisp morning treks through the frosty woods, the crack of rifles echoing off distant ridges, hounds baying hot on a fresh trail, and evenings filled with tall tales around the leaping flames. Venison roasted slow over open fires, coffee boiled black and strong, and the pure joy of life, away from town suits and deadlines, soaked into their bones. But the real magic hit around the fifth night, when the long miles walked that day melted into easy chatter. Jack Lyons loosened up after days of solid work, and with the fire crackling high, he'd spin yarns that chased away every ache and made the stars overhead shine brighter. The night before New Year's bit deep with cold. That afternoon's north wind had died down at sunset, leaving only faint gusts now and then. They rustled the pine needles like a sad melody from some forgotten opera, the kind even the great composers never quite captured. In front of two fresh white tents, two of the hunters stretched out full length by the fire's glow. Across from them lounged Jim, the guide, and good old Jack Lyons, all at ease in the warmth. Four sturdy hounds, Ringwood, Rose, Jet, and Boxer, curled up nearby, dead tired from the chase, dreaming of tomorrow's quarry with twitching paws and soft whines. Firelight carved sharp shadows on the tall pine trunks, standing like ancient cathedral pillars. Stars twinkled diamond-hard through the leafy canopy above. Down by the creek's edge, a heavy silence hung, making Jack's words land heavier, more real. Jack smacked his lips over a steaming mug of real Campbellton punch, brewed just right with pine knot sparks dancing in his eyes. If them deer head down the creek tomorrow, he said, grinning wide, we in for some real sport. They'll pull us right past old Gibbet's place. Fine huntin' in daylight, sure, but after dark? No, sir, you won't catch this old darky anywhere near there. Everyone leaned in natural, asking why Jack steered clear of Gibbet's at night. He held up a hand, asking a minute to refill his pipe. Silence stretched, broken only by popping embers and a distant owl's call. Jack piled on fresh pine knots till flames roared high, then settled back, pipe glowing. His voice dropped low, pulling them into the past. You gentlemen know how it was when them gunboats prowled the sound. Jack started slow. We folks had to stick to these back roads, way out of range of their big guns. I was hired by Mr. Harrison, hauling salt from the factory at Mississippi City, on the beach clean over to Mobile. Made the trip every week or so. Federals never thought of these trails, gave us smooth going. No shells burstin', no shootin' matches. Good times, mostly. That night I'm talking about, Friday full moon going down, everybody knows Fridays bring bad luck. Hitched up Betsy and Rose in the lead, Old Fox and Blossom at the pole. Loaded the heaviest salt haul that team ever pulled. Started out, crossed Biloxi River at Hansborough, right as moon dipped low. Roads no better then than now, rain had churned 'em to mud pits, wheels sinking deep in holes. I sat up top whistlin', the cows in the pea patch, mind wanderin' to Sarah Jameson. She became my wife later when the off four-wheel went kerslush, hub deep in a rut. Made 17 miles from Hansborough, cussed a blue streak, then headed to the fence 20 yards off, yanked a rail to pry her up. That's when I saw it, Mr. Gibbet's place. Thought, I'll hike up, get old man Gibbet to give me a lift. Passed by 2 weeks prior, seen him myself. Now listen close, gentlemen, this true as Judgment Day horn. Walked up to the house, bright light shining through windows, saw shadows on the curtains, Miss Gibbet, Mrs. Gibbet, clear as day. Front door shut tight. Stepped on the gallery, knocked soft with my whip butt. Lights winked out like that. Then laughter, ha 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 ha, echoing cold. Set my knees knockin', pushed the door empty, struck a match. Furniture gone, that red curtain I swore I saw in tatters. Whole family vanished. Headed back puzzled, thunder rumbled, lightnin' flashed. Lord have mercy in the front yard, 6 fresh graves. Something bad here, I knew. Built a fire by the wagon, dug out the wheel. Just then, old Squire Pasture rode up from Mobile way. Gave me the news. Old Gibbet slit his wife's throat. 4 young'uns too. Then shot his own head off jealous rage over her. Buried 'em all right there in the yard. House deserted 10 days. Gentlemen, them mules flew to Mobile, faster'n greased lightning. Tell me no ghost you won't catch me near that log house, lest the sun's an hour high. Jack glanced nervous over his shoulder into the black woods, pulled his blanket tight, muttering, "Still chills this old nigger just tellin' it." Sleep came quick to camp, but Jack's tale lingered like creek mist. Next morning, over hoe cakes and strong coffee, he swore every word true, eyes dartin' to the creek trail. The hunters geared up, hounds eager, wagon creakin' under fresh supplies. Jim Caruthers led steady, knowin' every pine twist and deer run. But talk turned back to Gibbets as they rolled south, deer scent pullin' them that way. Jack rode high, pipe clenched, laugh quieter now. Seen it myself, boss. Lights flickerin', shadows dancin' like lost souls. Laughter, not human, cold, empty, bouncin' off them pines. One hunter pressed. Family all dead, no survivors? Jack nodded solemn. Wiped clean. Gibbet wild with jealousy, thought wife strayin'. Knife work quick, then his own end. Graves still fresh when Squire told dirt mounded neat, crosses crooked. They pictured it vivid. Isolated log house, hunkered in pine gloom, chimney cold, windows, dark eyes, rain-slick roads mirrorin' moon, wheel stuck deep. Jack, alone, whip in hand, knockin' timid. Lights die sudden, laugh rises, ghostly. Empty rooms echo steps, rags, whip and breeze. Yard glows under flash, 6 mounds stark white. Deeper woods thickened, creeks murmur closer. Hounds perked, noses twitchin'. Jack's voice dropped again that noon, over venison jerky. After that night, swore off Fridays. But deer runs don't care tomorrow might drag us past. Laughter faded, chills settled despite sun, memories stirred, Civil War echoes, gunboats poundin' coast, folks hidin' inland. Jack's hauls, risky, salt precious, roads bandit trap, yet Gibbets topped all terrors. Camp that eve near Creek Bend, fire high against frost. Stars wheeled cold overhead, pines whisperin' low. Jack refilled punch mugs, tail growin' branches. "Squire," said coroner puzzled no note, "just blood trails inside." Neighbors shunned place after, sayin' lights flicker random, laughter drifts nights. Hunters steer wide after dark. Jim grunted agreement. Heard same deer thick there, but spooks thicker. Dawn broke icy, party pushed on. Deer trail hot, ringwood bayed fierce. Hours later, pines thinned to clearing. Tumble down logs, overgrown yard. 6 mounds faint under weeds, crosses rotted. House sagged, windows shattered stairs. Jack ranged sharp. Gibbets, we skirt wide. Hunters dismounted, cautious, rifles ready. Air heavy, unnatural still. Hounds whined low, tails tucked. One peered window rags fluttered inside, shadows shift. No wind. Quick chill gripped spines. Just tails, one muttered, but voice thin. Back to trail fast. Deer forgot. Jack grinned uneasy. Told you, fun in day, but night? Them shadows move on their own. Campfire that night burned double knots. Yarns veered safe. Yet eyes flicked dark, ears strained laughs. Jack's truth sank deep, no jest. Pure witness. Week's end neared, wagon homeward, heavy with hauls. Roads smoothed, towns neared, but gibbets clung. Jack hummed old tunes, laugh boomin' again. Ghosts real, gentlemen, seen too much to doubt. Party nodded silent, changed men. Wilderness gifts sharp. Deer meat bonds tight, chills lastin'. Years passed, hunters scattered. Jack Lyons, legend in Hansborough, best cook, biggest laugh, truest tales. Gibbet's place crumbled full. Pines reclaimin'. Locals whisper still. Lights on Fridays, laughter low. Deer thrive unfazed. Modern hunters, GPS trails, hearin' old yarns fade. But creek bottoms hush sudden. Mounds whisper warnings. Jack's voice echoes winds. Lights go out. Ha ha ha. Won't catch me there. Expanded hunts painted fuller. Mornings mist wrapped. Boots crunch frost. Breath clouds. Rifle sights. Shots crack crisp. Deer bound graceful. Camp life rich hoe cakes crisp. Steaks sizzlin'. Coffee scalds sweet. Jack's hands magic. Dough kneaded sure. Fire tended patient. War backdrop deepened. Gunboats smoke horizon, shells whine distant. Salt halls vital blockade runners kin. Jack's team trusted. Betsy steady, Rose game. Friday night raw. Moonblood, orange. Roads, black mirrors. Wheel sink, mud suckin'. Knock echoes hollow. Lights pulse eerie. Laughter peals manic glee over graves. Empty house breathes decay. Dust motes dance, match flame, rags moth chewed. Graves stark. Small mounds, children-sized, churned earth fresh. Squire's tale grim. Gibbets rages, built slow, whispers, wife, neighbor glances. Snap sudden, blade flashes haul. Self-blast echoes dawn. Bury hasty, fear-fueled. House cursed after, vines choke doors. Hunter's detour vivid. Hound's hackles rise. Air thick rot sweet. Shadow twists window rat. Or Gibbet's grin. Flight instinctive. Heart's thunder. Tale's legacy. Around modern fires, Jack's name conjures chills. Ghosts, maybe wind, owls, minds weary. But old roads remember, lights flicker, laughs linger. Wilderness keeps secrets deep as creek beds. Yes, this house is a solid one, the real estate agent said with a nod. Great neighborhood, and you're getting it for next to nothing. But I have to be upfront with you. You're orphans supporting your mother, right? That makes it even more important you know everything. The place has a reputation, people say it's haunted. He couldn't help but smile as he said it, and relief washed over him when the two young faces in front of him, brother and sister, bright-eyed and practical, smiled right back. "Ah, you don't buy into ghost stories?" He continued, chuckling. "Neither do I, really. But that talk keeps tenants running out the door. This house should rent for double what I'm asking. If we chase out the ghost, you won't jack up the price?" the boy asked, eyes twinkling with mischief. "Well, not this year anyway," the agent laughed. And with that, the deal was done. Margaret, the slip of a girl, and her tall brother David headed off, excited for their new home. Within a week, the Craig family had moved in and fallen in love with the place. It was spacious and airy, with wide hallways, grand staircases, and more rooms than they could ever fill. They'd spent years crammed into tiny rentals, dealing with leaky roofs, noisy neighbors, and barely enough space to breathe. A house like this? Way out of their league until the haunted label slashed the rent in half. "Bless that ghost!" Margaret exclaimed, dashing from room to room like a kid at play. "Who wouldn't want one if it scores us a mansion like this? And it's so close to your school now," their mother added, beaming. "No more long treks worrying me sick. David can even pop home for lunch. Imagine that treat." David struck a serious pose. "If I meet the ghost, I'll roll out the red carpet. We won't miss the space he takes. Let's give him that empty room above yours, Maggie. Door doesn't even latch right. He can come and go without fuss." Laughter filled the halls as they joked about their spectral roommate. That first night, exhaustion hit hard after the move. They slept like logs, undisturbed. Morning brought more giggles over the shy ghost, who hadn't shown his face to newcomers. For the next 3 days, the family dove into unpacking chaos boxes everywhere. Furniture shuffled, dust bunnies fleeing brooms. School started soon. Margaret prepped for her teaching job, and David placed an ad in the papers for a maid to help their mother while they were out. All day, prospective maids paraded through mostly local women of color, practical and no nonsense. Each took one look around and declared, "This the haunted house needin' help? No, ma'am, I ain't workin' where spirits roam." Off they'd go, one after another. Finally, one stuck around briefly, but after chatting over the fence with a neighbor's servant, she vanished too. "Don't worry, kids," Mrs. Craig sighed, rubbing her temples. "I'd rather handle it myself than chase help." The maid was let go, doors locked tight, and the Craigs retreated to bed, worn from the hassle. 4 full days in, and not a whisper of the ghost. Mentioning it sparked peals of laughter. They were down to earth, folks who loved poking at mysteries until they unraveled. David crashed into deep boyish sleep, house silent as a tomb. Then Margaret crept into his room, hand gentle on his arm. He mumbled groggily before sitting up. "Hush," she whispered, finger to lips. "Come to my room. I've been hearing something odd." "Creaky doors?" He yawned, pulling on clothes. "Nothing like that." They tiptoed upstairs to the unused room lock faulty, door swinging loose. Hearts quickened, not with fear but thrill, as they nudged it open. Their own unpacked box sat center floor, otherwise empty as promised. They exchanged puzzled glances. "Hold the lamp, Maggie." David prowled every inch corners, walls, under the box. "Secret panels?" he joked, smile strained. "Can't imagine what it was," Margaret murmured on the way down. "Chains don't rattle alone," David said firmly. "Ghosts or not, I'll figure it." "Textbook ghosts love chains," she teased, shutting her door. She lay awake hours, ears straining for more, but silence held. Mother slept through it all. Breakfast buzzed with the tale, her eyes widened. Burglars? Maybe. David and Margaret burst laughing. A thief here? Nothing worth stealing. Vigil set for night 2, all 3 ears perked for hauntings. Margaret heard first, jerked awake to dragging overhead. Chain, clear as day. It trailed from the room, down bare stairs, clink, drop, step by step, paused at her door. Terror pinned her. Paced the hall, back and forth, then climbed again. She bolted for David. Full search. Lamp-sweeping nooks, closets, attic corners. Nothing. Baffled retreat. "Tonight I end this," David vowed next evening. Camp at stairhead. Keep it from Mom, she'd fret. Post-bedtime, he screened his spot, patient as stone. Clocks told endless hours. Midnight passed, no walks. Fidgets crept in. He dozed against wall, then dragged from the empty room. Real chain, no doubt. It neared stairs, past his screen, clanked down. Moonlight striped steps midway. He leaned, watched. Gleam slipped through light, vanished below, returned same path, back to room. David slapped knees triumphant, dashed to bed, slept sound. Morning mystery. Saw the ghost, he teased Maggie. Details tomorrow. She pestered no dice. Downtown errand yielded bulky parcel, stashed secret. Ghost catching tonight. No peeks. Evening tinkering in hall, then bed. Margaret eavesdropped, he slept fast. Midnight squeal, shattered peace all rushed out. Atop stairs, massive rat trap sprung, rat thrashing amid wires. iron collar around neck, long chain dangling. "David, rats here?" Mother gasped. Eyes locked on chain, they chorused, "The ghost." Laughter erupted. Poor rat. Nesting in busted chimney, ex-pet maybe, chain relic. He'd rattled nights, spooked maids, slashed rent. Family howled at the irony. "Cage him up," David declared. "We owe our dream home, can't ditch him now." Agent's jaw dropped next morn, over caged ghost. Half-price palace thanks to a rodent? Smart kid, you earned it. $6 a week? Swing by any time. Need growing room in business. Handshake sealed over cage. Craig's thrived. Margaret taught with zeal. David climbed ranks. Mother eased burdens. Rat named Casper lived pampered, chain jingling harmless. Years wove deeper tale. House breathed history, Victorian bones, prior owners fleeing haunt. Craig's practicality pierced veil chain from old latch, rat bold explorer. Neighborhood whispers faded, envy grew at their steel. David's hustle shone. Aaron's built savvy, agent mentored deals. Margaret's classroom spark kids adored her tales of ghost hunts. Mother bloomed, garden vibrant, aches forgotten. Casper became mascot kids, peaked, giggled at whiskered menace. Sundays, family picnics yard wide, ghost jokes eternal. Our lucky specter. Ties strengthened, agent, uncle figure, neighbors warmed. Prosperity flowed, house hub of laughter, not dread. Reflections lingered. Superstitions crumble under light. Craig's proved it mystery to mirth via grit. Rat's chain, symbol now, drag fears to truth. Decades on, house stood proud. Craig's legacy etched. New owners heard yarns. Rats? Best haunt ever. Echoes of clinks in wind. Family nods. Here Casper? Still watchin'. Expanded life, painted vivid. Unpacking frenzy boxes topple, laughter amid dust. School runs joyful, Margaret's satchel swings. David's lunch is steaming. Maid hunts comic wide eyes, hasty exits. Nights built, suspense. First, drag, faint, curious. Second, bold, stares, symphony. David's vigil, tense breath held, moon magic. Trap snap, cathartic rats squeak comical villainy. Agent's offer bloomed. David clerked, Rose manager. Wed, kids romped, haunted halls, cycle joyful. Margaret principal, inspired throngs. Mother lived long, grandkids delight. Casper's end, peaceful buried garden hero. Chain, relic, mantle, talisman. House's soul? Craig's infused practical magic turned curse to fortune. Ghosts flee reason, families endure. I don't know if you share ghost stories with your kids. Some parents steer clear, but ours didn't. Our mother, though German-born, had a strong, no-nonsense view on the supernatural. She raised us to face fears head-on, both in body and mind. We loved hearing her tales of real hauntings, but she taught us early. Ghosts might appear, but they couldn't truly harm us. We soaked up every bit of ghostly knowledge, doppelgangers, Willow, the wisps, blue lights, and more. Nothing beat good behavior rewards like her drawing from that endless well of eerie stories. One stormy night stands out, all of us huddled in her cozy room by a crackling fire, munching nuts and apples. She spun an all-too-true tale passed down from her own grandmother, who lived it firsthand. The night was brutal. Wind howled and sobbed around the house like tormented spirits crying for release. Rain hammered the windows, trees bent and groaned in the gale, their tops nearly scraping the ground. Lightning stabbed through shutters and thick curtains, thunder rumbling low and menacing, chilling the blood. It was the kind of storm to bar the doors, draw curtains tight, poke the fire high, and sink into an armchair with feet on the fender, craving cheerful talk or thoughts. But I sat alone. Servants stayed in their separate wing. I preferred no menials hovering close. No family nearby, my children gone dead or married off. Just such a night, claimed Nancy Black. What a terrible evening for a soul to quit its body and face the endless unknown, I murmured aloud. Snapping from my reverie, I pulled my heavy shawl tighter, scooted my armchair closer to the blaze, and burrowed in, feet tucked into a warm cushion. A strange chill gripped me despite the fire. I was in the library. My favorite haunt, a long, wide room across from the empty parlors, shelves packed floor to ceiling. My husband's father had been a book collector, his son much the same. Rare volumes worth fortunes lined those walls. The fire lit half the space. From my chimney nook, I watched flames dance shadows across furniture and books, bright flares, then dying glows birthing wild shapes. Lost in the play of light and dark, the storm's wails pulled me back. Taps scratched windows like pleading fingers. Sighs begged entry from the chaos. Thoughts drifted to Nancy Black, my old school friend who'd adored me. That fateful night she met her end, replayed vivid. Head on hand, I stared into flames, pondering her odd life, stranger death, and the vanished fortune, money, and jewels I'd known she owned. A creepy sensation stole over me, not raw fear, but dread of glancing up to horror. Shivers rippled head to toe, icy breath ghosting my forehead like ice pressed to skin. It brushed my face, lingered on lips like a chilling caress, filling me with dread. No coward, no nerves, no wild imagination me. I shook it off, turned, looked up. There, inches away, my flung hand passed through her misty form, Nancy Black. Yet not her. Body semi-transparent, like a hand backlit by sun. Clothes same as life's waved like flames, flickering, unburning. In God's name, Nancy, why here? Where from? I gasped. A hollow whisper. Thank you, old friend, for speaking, for thinking of me tonight. I'll rest now. Rest, mocked an echo, jeering laugh shuddering her. I've lingered near often, but tonight you're open to me. I'll tell my errand, origin, unneeded, happy. I'd shun such nights, such tasks. Storms like this, winds wailing, release us. Those cries, lost souls mourning doom, wandering from torment's home, fleeing pain unending. Go to my old house, back room, always locked lift carpet by fireplace, knot hole plank, pry it, find what damned me, pray for dead AIDS souls. Money, jewels to charity. Bury others in holy ground, pray over us. Ah, Jeanette, you saw me pure despite odd ways. Bitter punishment, shatter that. Farewell, obey, no more haunts. Winds howling thus, lost ones flee, memories whip, consciences lash, that's the sound? Proof you're not dreaming, she said, fingertips touching my palm. Child, see even now, 3 crimson spots burn there, unerasable. Pray for us, Jeanette, she sighed, gaze longing, then faded. Dreaming? I cried, ringing for servant. He stoked fire, lit lamps. I paced no odd furniture, shifts explained it. Sent for my maid. Library unnerved me now. Dressing for bed, she asked, burned your hand, ma'am? 3 dark red spots seared my left palm like hot iron, yet soft, painless. Excused it vaguely, dismissed her quick. Alone, pondered. Marks real, stubborn, paling surrounding skin. Asleep? Self-inflicted? Tomorrow, Nancy's house. Sleep came fitful. Nancy, girlhood chum, owned Primetown property. Lived alone in stone house opposite mine. Died sudden, oddly, willed me everything. Morning, keys in hand, maid Sarah and I crossed. Untouched since death, furniture frozen in time. Directed room. Sarah rolled carpet knot whole plank exact. Alone, lifted. Long box between joists. Lid loose. Horror. 2 skeletons, tiny infant, delicate woman, small framed. Flash. Nancy's sister, Lucy, 17, vanished mysteriously years back. Nancy claimed death abroad, no doubts. Tale seamless. Orphans young, Lucy 2, Nancy 18, she raised her fiercely. Lucy fell. Nancy, pride guarding name, position, slew mother, child, hid shame. Lived, haunted, secret gnawing, box-brimmed gold, jewels, parchment, Lucy's father's estate share. Obeyed, fully believed her visit real. Clergymen confided, quietly buried, consecrated. Charity claimed wealth. House became refuge for needy women. Kneel, morning, night, forgiveness for Nancy, peace her soul. Mother paused, fire dying low. Storm raged on outside, wind mimicking lost wails. We kids hung wrapped nuts, forgotten, spines tingling. Grandmother felt those marks lifelong, she said soft. Proof beyond doubt. tale-rippled family lore. Grandmother's library, vast oak shelves, groaning rarities, first folios, illuminated manuscripts, leather spines whispering secrets. Firelit shadows danced like Nancy's form, elongated figures twisting approval. Storm that night? Ferocious. Shutters rattled fury, branches clawed glass like talons. Thunder boomed bowels earth, lightning etched crosses sky. Aloneness amplified dread, servants distant, echoey halls vast. Nancy's apparition, ethereal glow, eyes pools, sorrow pleading, pained. Voice whispery, wind-torn silk. Laugh jeer, demonic chorus, room vibrating. Handmarks throbbed post-visit vivid, crimson, thumb-sized, clustered triangle. Faded never, poked doctors puzzled. Birthmarks? No. Ice breath lingered phantom, skin-prickling recall. Nancy's house? Stone fortress, opposite sentinel. Locked room shrine, secrecy, dust-veiled mirrors reflecting ghosts, carpet threadbare, hearth-focused. Plank, creak, ominous, box cedar-scented death. Skeletons fragile, porcelain, tiny bones, curled fetal, woman petite, wedding ring finger snapped, accusing. Lucy's saga pieced, wild youth, forbidden love, pregnancy shame. Nancy's devotion twisted, fanatic knife mercy, lived torment. Nights pacing, whispers self-loathing. Sudden death, heartburst guilt, charity poured, orphans housed, widows fed, jewels fenced anonymous. Refuge thrived, women mended, souls healed. Grandmother prayed fervent rosary beads Nancy's imagined. Legacy deepened. We kids chased ghosts, woods, fearless. Mother retold storms, Marks displayed palm grandkids. House stood now museum. Legends clung. Night winds carry Nancy's sigh. Crimson spots warn heed. Grandmother's strength shone. Skeptic yet open rational, probed supernatural. Nancy's visit, redemption plea, lost souls seek mercy living. Prayed faithfully, felt peace descend. Storms still hush us. Winds wail, we pray. Nancy, Lucy, infants forgiven. Crimson palm reminder. Boundaries thin, compassion, bridges. Expanded layers. German roots infused resilience, folklore rich, fear tamed reason. Children versed, doppelganger doubles doombringers, will, o wisp, marsh lures. Fireside rituals, bonded nuts, crack, rhythmic, apples, crisp contrast, thunder. Library intimacy. Velvet armchair cradled, fender warmed toes. Books companions, dusty tomes, foxed pages, gold leaf titles. Shadows capered, chairbacks, hunchbacks, shelves, ogres looming. Storm sensory, ozone sharp, drafts icy fingers. Apparition tactile, hand past chill vacuum. Whisper intimate horror. Discovery visceral, box lid groan, bone rattle faint. Parchment brittle, ink faded accusation. Clergyman's pallor, burial discreet, midnight shovels, soft earth. Refuge bloomed. Laughter filled once silent halls, gardens bloomed hope. Grandmother aged gracefully, Mark's badge honor. Tale endures, read aloud generations, chills perennial. Ghosts, messengers mercy, pray, always pray. Thanks for spending your night with True Nightmares. If these stories helped you relax, hit like and subscribe, and pick the next episode on your screen so the creepy stories can keep playing while you fall asleep.